Hello, Wakefield. Welcome to our town council meeting of Monday, April 27th. I call this meeting into order and I ask if you are able to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I am joined by the entire council today. Everyone is in attendance and in the studio, which is great. We will go to public participation. We all have, one public comment in our package. Sherry, is he also online?
Yes, Alan is online. Yep. He'll be coming over in a minute.
And I will just remind people that are speaking from the public that we usually look to our town administrator to set a timer of 3 minutes. We have a 3-minute. This is not a back and forth. This is an opportunity for people to say whatever they want. It is not expected that there is a back and forth.
Hi, Alan. Can you hear us?
There we go. It shut me down. I'm now live again. There we go. Good evening. My name is Alan Goldberg. I reside at 184 Water Street here in Wakefield. My wife and I moved to Wakefield last year from Ohio and chose Wakefield because of the town's reputation as a safe, welcoming, and civically engaged community. I'm here tonight to ask the council to adopt a clear public policy prohibiting the use of Wakefield town personnel, funds, or physical resources in the event ICE seeks assistance based solely on civil detainers or administrative requests rather than judicial warrants. Across the country, we've seen how improper federal immigration enforcement operations have negatively affected local communities. If ICE activity expands in Massachusetts, Wakefield should have a policy that town officials and residents understand the limits of municipal authority and the town's rejection of ICE illegal activities. Massachusetts law already provides important direction in Lund versus Commonwealth 2017. The Supreme Judicial Court held that state and local law enforcement officers may not detain someone solely on the basis of federal civil immigration detainer. In 2024, the Commonwealth reaffirmed the Trust Act, which encourages cities and towns to enact immigration policies that are humane and constitutional. The act is designed to ensure that local residents are focused on public safety, not illegal seizure of people or property. Our region has been shaped by generations of immigrants who have come to this country seeking opportunity and security. Many of us are descendants who built their lives here under the protection of constitutional principles and rule of law. If the current immigration policies were in place then, many of us may not have been here today. At your request, I can make available resources which may help you adopt a local policy. I urge council to create a policy that embraces our Fourth Amendment protections and pledges not to provide resources for any illegal ICE activities. If ICE seeks assistance without judicial warrants, Wakefield should deny support for their ICE tactics. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg, and welcome to Wakefield. We appreciate you joining our processes within a year of you moving here, so welcome. Town Administrator Casey, yes. We won't have a back and forth, but I ask that you share this with Chief Scory and then maybe report back to the council about any recommendations that you have.
Thank you, I will.
And feel free, Mr. Goldberg, to send in whatever information you want. We all got a copy of your comments, but feel free to send in whatever you want. Thank you. Sherry, anyone else for public comment online?
No one else.
Okay, and I don't think anyone is in the studio for public comment, so we'll move on to our discussion matters Item 5A, 4th of July Parade, an update from Barbara Worley.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm going to put my timer on. So I did give everybody a handout because there's a lot of information. The first thing to note is Brian Fox, following Brian Fox as a chair for 2 years and following him has not been easy because his parades were really great. They're all on video. Anyway, I'm not going to say more than that, but he is a tough act to follow. And so this year, celebrating the 250th, we really concentrated on, or at least the artists did, on combining the whole day with what West Side Social Club does and what the Wakefield Independence Day Committee does. So that's what the design is. If you look at it carefully, you can see elements of the whole day. We have things coming up, and I'm not going to tell you a lot of what's in the parade because the newest things are surprises, so you'll need to come. It's funny when I tell somebody, oh, I'm the chair of the Wakefield Parade, and they don't like know anything about it. You know, it's always I'm always surprised. Or the people that say, oh, I go to the Cape or I go to Maine. It's like, anyway, so we're working on that, getting the word out that we have a parade. And Facebook is a good place to find that out. We have returning about 19 to 20 bands. We had one band retire, Liberty Jazz Band retired. They're the ones that were always on a red truck. We have about 18 circus and cosplay groups or individuals, 10 floats of various kinds, you know, different size, and 10 reenactor groups. And then we're going to have this year, the commentators are going to be like last year, Brian Agosta and Christine at the table at the back of the review stand with Dan Benjamin. So Dan Benjamin has quite a history of the parade, so that's going to be really good. There won't be an MC out front. That I'm going to be more of a stage manager with a walkie-talkie, and we're going to have the Palmtastics at that 5 o'clock time when the parade's not there. And we're going to have Holly Zagarias singing. She's a professional opera singer, singing America the Beautiful or whatever she sang at the Veterans. We're doing good. Finances, you can look at the website. It's just bigger sponsors this year. The amounts were bigger, and then the smaller amounts, there was fewer of those. But please look at the website because it's up to date. As far as volunteers, what I say is there's leader volunteers and there's worker bee volunteers. And we're really doing good on leader volunteers that work the whole year behind the scenes and at meetings. But it's the worker bees the day of that we really need. And the website has a tab that you can sign up for worker bees. Of course, you guys will be walking in the parade. But I would like to end my talk with a video that was just produced last week. So you guys can run the video, my buddies. I've been here 2 years. We also had carnival footage done last week at night and dusk. So, but please go online and go on Facebook. And I'm done. Thank you. It's going to be wonderful.
Okay. Thank you so much. The parade is one of, it's a great day in town. Always looking for more volunteers as someone who's volunteered in the past, always looking for more donors. So please check out their website or their social media to help out if they can. Anyone have any questions for Barbara and her team?
No question, but just thank you, Barbara, to you, and appreciate you mentioning Brian as well. But also significantly, thank you to everyone who puts this together. I mean, you guys have been sort of the faces of the parade, but the faces in front of an army of people who support this. I think this is one of the things that we can really be so proud of in Wakefield. I love that the July Independence Day Committee and the West Side Social Club are collaborating more and more each year. I think that's amazing. And I can't wait for the parade.
Should we take a vote? Because we do close down streets, and I feel like, and Dee, just your team has been working with the parade committee and the West Side Social Club and meeting regularly to make sure everything goes as planned. And we thank all the people from the town side who helped make this day great. But we should probably, right? In the past, I think we have.
We have. Are we ready for that yet, or do we have the specific
I don't have,
request yet?
yeah. I
Okay.
think we should
Yeah.
Okay,
hold off
then
on
that'll come in.
So vote on it, but just not right now.
Got it. Add to a future agenda. Make note. Yeah, that's great. So I did want, because you guys are doing such great work, I just wanted to get it on everyone's radar. And that video is great. Hopefully it will go up and people can see it. That was fun.
People will see it. I'll be, yeah. It'll be on WCT-TV a lot.
Okay, any other comments about the 4th of July parade? Okay, thank you, Barbara. Moving on to item B, Wakefield 101, with an update from Catherine McDonald.
Good evening. I'm Catherine McDonald. I'm the director of the library, and I wrote this down to make it as smooth as possible, and then you're welcome to ask questions. I don't know how much everyone knows about Wakefield 101. So the history is that it was based on a Welcome to Wakefield, a Welcome to Wilmington event that was hosted by the library in 2015. And we the library coordinated with the Chamber of Commerce and Chris Carino, who I believe was consulting for the town at that time. And we decided to host a similar event. And the first event was held at the library on May 19th, 2016, with representatives of town government, town departments, schools, chamber businesses, volunteer, recreational, religious, and cultural organizations. It was held twice a year through 2019, and then last held at the AmeriCal Civic Center in 2022. So at the beginning, the goals that were agreed upon were to introduce new residents to their town services and volunteer opportunities, and to establish rapport with town employees, to promote local businesses, the volunteer organizations, and the library, and for the new residents to meet other new residents. Over the years, it really evolved. We changed the time, the location, the logistics, town department staffing and hours, complicated participation. New resident participation became uneven and unpredictable. We discovered existing residents were interested in many of the components of the event, including the civic information, and there was one year that Maureen and Betsy Sharon met that need at the library. They're interested in volunteer opportunities and chamber giveaways. Another difference is that in that intervening years, a town communications manager was hired, and now there's a great deal more information easily accessible on the town website than there was in 2016. So the library also hosts a volunteer directory. That's something that's new, and every new resident gets a postcard it's a Join in Wakefield, and it refers them to that website where they can volunteer or join organizations. It's very popular throughout Massachusetts. I just did a survey among my peers, but they do it different ways. And in Chatham, for instance, they have a municipal academy, which is 9 weekly 2-hour sessions, which we're not going to do. Many libraries offer tours to new residents, and then they link them to the town's information. We've done that a lot recently. Bolton has a website called hellobolton.org, and it's great, and it's done by volunteers. Reading, Burlington, and Wilmington all have variations of Wakefield 101. Wilmington is still doing it, but they have also evolved as well. So for the future, John at the Chamber said that they're happy to participate, but they need to consider any new realities in the business community and adjust accordingly. And I think that the town and the library would need to do that as well. I think we need to reevaluate what the goals are and what the availability is for everybody involved and what it is that we actually want to do, where we want to do it, and how often, and for whom. So the willingness is there, but it really needs new direction and significant planning. So for those of you who have been there, I think you may have seen some of what I've said, that the first time there were over 100 people, and then there would be other times that maybe there'd be 30. So we changed times, and we changed lots of things over the years. So we're just going to have to reevaluate that, I think. So I'd take any questions.
Councillor Carney?
I think it's a great idea. I've mentioned this a couple of times to the council. We have a communication problem in the town of Wakefield. People aren't getting the information out there like they used to. And obviously, I'd like to see things done with the WCAT, including the Wakefield item, but getting people involved and getting the information to them, I think, is very, very important. And this could be an avenue to teach them how to get the information and where to get it. We've done a lot of nice work. I think that our town website is excellent now. It's a lot easier to work with, but people don't know that. And I think we've got to establish that communications. I'd like to see WCAT become the avenue of all information, so people might want to subscribe to it. We have a financial problem, so have people maybe possibly say, "Hey, look at this. This is going to be my source for a small fee. I'll make sure that the information we're getting is accurate for not only the elderly, but for the school children, for the parents, because we have a real bad communication problem, and I think." But probably other communities are just in the same way, is the fact that people living their own lives and going off on different avenues, and they're getting their information from different sources, and it's hard to get the information out about the town.
Yeah, I hear you. The library spends a lot of time trying to figure out how to get information to people. A lot of time. So we should talk about that sometime, because I have thoughts. Anything else?
Councillor Butler?
And sorry, I'm trying to understand. You're essentially saying you sort of we're sort of getting rid of, or we're canceling Wakefield 101 as it was.
Well, we haven't done it in a very long time.
Oh, no, okay, so like that.
So we're not, it was never truly canceled. It just never, it's herding cats, and we never got all the cats in the same place at the same time.
Okay.
In the last couple of years. As I said, the last time we did it was, when was it? 2022 at the AmeriCal.
Okay. I guess I'm wondering, so it sort of seems like it just sort of naturally petered out to some degree.
Yes, it did. It seemed like it was, but at the same time, people loved it. So it seems like it fills a need, but we need to figure out what need it's filling and how to get that information and how to get that event to the people who need it at a time when they'll they'll be able to use it. And everybody who's participating to get all the participants together at the same time as well.
Okay, and I
So
mean,
one idea that has been raised is that we could incorporate it in Town Day.
Yeah, so I think Town Day kind of took over because we started Town Day around when Wakefield 101 ended. That's when Town Day, right? When was the first Town Day? 21 or 22? I know it's coming up on the agenda. I was there for the start of Wakefield 101. It really was one of my favorite things, I think, for us to show the town, people moving to town, that we're welcoming. And I love partnering with the chamber. But the other great thing about it was we had all the nonprofits and the committees and boards in town also there. So if the parade needed volunteers or we needed people to apply to some of our committees and commissions, they could learn all about it. It wasn't just the businesses, it was also the nonprofits. So the synagogue had a table and the churches had a table. And I think that's really important to kind of look at it as widely. I'm a big fan of this, Dee, so I would encourage you and your team to look about bringing it back in some capacity. I think Town Day is great too, but it is not targeted on new people who are moving to town. And I think that is a population where we want them to get involved. We want them to serve on our committees, serve on our boards, go to town meeting. It's a great way to get them involved like that. And I, as someone who staffed our town council table for years, you would just hear the best stories about people choosing to move our town. I share this story a lot, but I think it was like 2017, 2018, the first year that I did it. Everyone came in and we had a little game at our table about people, like where they were coming from and why they chose Wakefield. And I chose because of the lake, because of the library, because of the school system. And there was this family, a mom, a dad, a grandmother, and 2 young boys. And they had literally come from Nigeria. And I was like, you came from Nigeria, how did you pick Wakefield? And the mother looked at me and she's like, I'm getting my PhD at BU. I'm refusing to drive in America. So I needed a town with a commuter rail. And I brought my mother-in-law to Wakefield and she saw the lake and she said, this is where we're gonna move. And I thought about, we have to provide resources to families like that, right? Like this family had chosen Wakefield out of everywhere that they could have lived on the commuter rail, but they chose Wakefield, and what services were we provided? And I love that story of just who is moving to our town. So this is my push of getting your team to do something like this, in addition to Town Day, because I think Town Day is great too, but there is something about people choosing to move here and telling them about our resources. And we don't need to do what you talked about, Chatham doing. Lexington also does like a 6-week training, but it's like specifically to get people to run and volunteer for positions. I think this kind of hits multiple tickets, and it's just another avenue for people to learn more about our town. Sorry, my soapbox. I'm going to do it on my last day.
You're going to have a long list before.
As you can see, sir, I'm taking notes.
I have a soapbox for the last time today. Councilor Carney, did you, Chrisley, sorry.
I'm going to shelve my question in the interest of time.
Oh, it's hot. What are you doing?
I'll say something.
Councilor Constance.
So thank you for bringing this forward, because I agree it's a great event, and I worked the 2022 event at the AmeriCal for the Scholarship Foundation, and what struck me was all the people from the Foundry Street development, which was fairly new at the time. And as you're talking tonight here, I'm thinking of all the new residents that we have from all the new development that we've had, and the postcard's great, but I would venture to guess that as a new resident, that might not hit them, in the most impactful way. So I agree. Like, I think it's a great event, and however we can figure it out or partner or something. But thank you for running it for this long.
Councilor Fox.
Having also been at a table at Wakefield 101 a couple times, I loved the original format when it was held at the library versus at the AmeriCal. I think it was really targeted towards those new residents, even if it was once a year. I've talked to many new people that have come to town, and I said, well, we have Wakefield 101, and apparently I was wrong. We don't. Because they would ask me, where can I find out about certain things? I said, well, there was this great program at the library, and I would love to get it back to not businesses, just the volunteering in town, some town officials, just getting that information out. There's so many people who moved to town in the 4 years since this last been run. I think it would be really great if we were able to bring that back more in that traditional sense, if possible.
I like that you said you liked it at the library, because we really liked it when we first did it, we did it at the library because we were trying to get people into the library. But it was not the easiest place to have
No,
it.
it was difficult, but it worked.
But it also divided things up nicely. So if you were only interested in one thing, if you weren't interested in the school department, it was easy to get by that. Anyway, that's a planning thing. That's something that we would have to consider. But I liked the library too.
Counselor Chines.
So agree with everything that's been said, and I'll add my ditto to the chair's comments on loving to see this. I think one of the things that made it successful, kind of prior to the pandemic, was we were doing it consistently annually, and then obviously everything kind of changed in 2020, and we've only done it twice since then. But I love the idea of having really sort of two regular touch points for both new and existing residents to engage. Having like a Wakefield 101 at the library, sometime in the winter when, there's just not as much going on, people are looking for reasons to get out. And then pairing that with having sort of a similar dynamic of having, nonprofit organizations have the opportunity to table at Town Day in the fall. I think being able to point to both of those as opportunities for people to engage and to find out what's going on, and doing that kind of consistently year over year, I think will help us sort of keep that momentum going and help us sort of build on the level of interest that people have with all of this. I would agree with Councillor Fox. I loved it at the library. I love the AmeriCal, but it's a really loud, cavernous room. And it was hard to have those conversations in the same way that you were able to in the library. It just felt it felt a little more disconnected just because of the space.
And when the crowds were smaller, it wasn't as noticeable in the library.
Yep.
It still looked full.
I think that's right.
And that was part of the problem, is that we were trying to find the right time to do it, because there were certain events where very few people would show up, and we couldn't figure out what that was. We would send the same number of invitations and not get as many people. So it was either timing or there's a lot to be worked out. So we'll have to think about it.
Yeah, and I think for people moving in, it used to be there was kind of the spring real estate market, and that's also changed as well in terms of when people kind of move to new communities as you have different types of development and so forth. But again, I think the idea of having it kind of consistently makes a lot of sense. And I just want to kind of end by, really complimenting, you and your team for all of the outreach that the library does. I think, people still think about libraries in a very sort of discrete box, and the reality is, it's just so much more of a community resource than most people realize. And the fact that we're sending out these postcards every month to new residents is a great example of that. So appreciate all your work on this, and look forward to a bigger, better, newer, improved Wakefield 101 soon.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. I guess that's my question. Are you asking for what's the ask here? Is it the asking to bring back Wakefield 101
status
and our
update.
help with that? That's what I don't understand. I'm we're all talking about how great it was, but we haven't had it for 4 years. And so there hasn't been much going on around it for the past 4 years, obviously. What's, is it that you want the town council to help bring this all together? Why are you here?
To give you a status, and so that I could hear that, somebody liked it at the library, people think that it's worth doing. It hasn't been done for a while, and there's been reasons that, there have been barriers, and are those barriers worth overcoming? And it sounds like they are. We, all of us involved felt that it was a good program, but it does have some cat herding. So we will herd those cats if you all agree that it's worth it. And so that's pretty much just to give you a status that it hadn't been forgotten.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that answers.
Yeah.
So I think
I
that-
can put you on a committee if you'd like.
I was going to say, we don't have committees for these, and usually we just look to staff of making it done, but I think there is interest in all of us. And so if there is a committee of different people of the chamber, ask for volunteers and somebody will do it. I think social events come up a lot. They're very important. The parade, this event, Porch Fest, we have a lot of events that we want to be a part of and continue. So yeah, I think that the feedback is we're all in
It's a great way for somebody
favor.
to get their Wakefield graduate degree instead of to help teach about the town versus fine. So we'll recruit people.
I do think it also, the number of people volunteering for our boards and committees, it has come down in recent years. And I think, the fact that we've kind of fallen off on some of these, I think it does have an impact. And so I also look at that benefit of, it does help, I think, gin up interest in, again, serving in the town, volunteering with the Scholarship Foundation or the parade. It's getting harder and harder for organizations and our boards to recruit people, and I think anything that we can do to create those connections has value.
Okay,
Very good.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item C, the master plan. Erin Kakinda and Marissa Meany.
Hi, everyone. Marissa, I believe, is online.
Yeah, she's coming over right now.
Okay. Hi, Marissa.
Hi, everyone.
Marissa.
So I'll kind of start it off. Good evening, everyone. How are we doing? So I just want to start off by acknowledging, I know this has been a long and involving process, and I just appreciate everyone's patience and continued engagement. And people, I've had a few of you ask me, where's the master plan? And I'd say it's coming. But hopefully I'll give you some background information here that will kind of get you to where we are today. So tonight is about kind of resetting, clarifying why we are where we are, and kind of talking about a productive way that we're going to get it to the finish line. So I know a few of you are new since we started the master plan process all the way back in 2021, very end of 2021, let me say that. So 2022. And so a master plan, just to give some new people here, is a long-term planning document that guides decisions over a 10-year period. And it really looks at a big picture of your community, and it's organized by key topics to shape the town's growth and functions over time. So those 8 topics are land use and zoning, housing, transportation and mobility, economic development, open space and recreation, sustainability and climate resilience, public facilities and infrastructure, historic and cultural resources. And so through all those topics, you create a shared vision for the community, and it helps guide policy decisions, capital investments, zoning and land use, and economic development. And more importantly, it's supposed to be a practical tool for everyone. So for your board, for land use boards, for our nonprofit organizations we were just talking about, and staff as well. And so they're all connected, these topics. And again, it's all through the plan, creates goals, strategies, and recommendations to move things forward. So something that I just want to talk about before I get more into the process, I think, the actionable steps that you get in a master plan are something that are very important and something that was lacking in the plan and what brought us to where we are today. So like I said, the town started the master plan back in 2021. We brought on MAPC as our planning consultant. To support this effort, the project was funded through a combination of funding resources. So we received a $50,000 Urban Agenda grant through the Commonwealth, $20,000 through MAPC, and then $50,000 in local town funding. This allowed us to undertake this comprehensive plan. As part of the process, we had an advisory group that was formed representing residents, stakeholders, and board members. We had multiple public meetings and workshops that were held through the public process, surveys and community engagement efforts, which were able to provide us with a bunch of input. Just so you guys know, from a community engagement standpoint, we had those 4 public workshops, which had roughly 25 to 50 participants. And if you think about the time, it was still 2021, 2022, so a lot of it was Zoom. We had a few in-person meetings, but it was still during that time. I'm assuming now we'd probably have more participants in person. And so the goal with the plan was to build a plan that was based off of community feedback and reflective of shared priorities, and again, to guide the town's decision over the next 10 years. So that process took about a year and a half, 2 years, the public process. And from there, in September 2023, we received a draft master plan. After reviewing it internally with staff, the advisory group, and town leadership, we determined it wasn't able to go out for public comment based on the draft that we received. It lacked clear, actionable goals. There was a weak connection between goals, strategy, and implementation, and content continuously repeated itself, and we weren't able to translate anything into action. So we worked with MAPC over 2023 and 2024. In April in 2024, we were connected with a different staff member at MAPC to help us reorganize the document and hopefully create more structured goals, strategies, and actions. We received a revised draft in December 2024. So we provided a bunch of comments after talking to all the different groups, talking to staff, provided them with comments. They were only able to do so much within their budget. And so December 2024, we received a revised draft. It was much betterly organized. It was more readable to the everyday user, but it still lacked any clear goals and actionable recommendations. So we were kind of still at where we were at. At that point, MAPC indicated that contract funds had been expended, limiting further revisions. So in 2025, and I'd like to note during this time is when MBTA communities was going on, ADUs. I'm not making excuses. There was a lot on the plate during that time. In 2025, the town staff decided to work through the document internally, attempt to develop more clear, actionable recommendations. We learned very quickly this was going to be a very large undertaking on top of other tasks we had going on. So it became clear we were going to need additional support to help us guide us to the finish line. So I just want to give you a backstory of why we're here this many years later. I'm going to turn it over to Marissa, who now has kind of the next steps and how we're resetting and moving forward.
Yeah, thank you, Erin. So we have made the decision to bring in an outside consultant, Steve Magoon. He is the recently retired Director of Planning and Community Development and Assistant City Manager for the City of Watertown. He's a Wakefield resident, so he very clearly has the institutional knowledge and has offered forth his services to help us really usher this plan to the finish line. And we are just so grateful that he stepped in when he did. So his role will be to work with staff, town staff, and the advisory group and help turn the existing work into a clear and actionable final document. We have also communicated with MAPC. There might still be some opportunities to work with them. We're thinking maybe collaborating on some of the data figures that are probably at this point a little outdated, but otherwise they will just stick to helping us in an advisory capacity. We'll be there to answer any questions as needed. So our path forward as we work with Steve is to re-engage the advisory group, focus on creating clear goals, defining strategies, developing specific actionable steps, and all to ensure that the final plan is clear, is usable, and is grounded in the input that we have already received. Our goal is to have it all completed, tied up in a nice, neat little bow by this fall. And moving forward, this will be a much more focused and efficient process that will really help us get to the end goal, get to the finish line. So we're excited at the prospect that this is all finally coming to an end, a great end. So.
Councilor Chines.
I'm sorry, were you guys done?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we're done. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the update and to both of you for the work on this. I know, I think one of the things that we had worked on when you first started was the Vision 2030 project, which was meant to be sort of the foundation of this process. And I think we had, some really good discussion in the workshops for this project. I think we put together an advisory board that, really was, I think, well constructed, represented a lot of different and diverse viewpoints in town, and so it certainly, I think, from my perspective, was a frustration that we had a hard time kind of getting this completed. I guess a couple of questions that I had. So one, just to confirm, it sounds like the intent is we're not restarting the process, but taking the work that's been done and really trying to get it from a bunch of ideas, on whiteboards from these virtual meetings into an actual document. We're not, redoing public forums or anything like that.
No,
Okay.
we are not. We are going to take the document that we have, and again, we're going to update the data. We're going to take the notes that we got from all those forums, the surveys, and be able to kind of make the document what we need as a town.
Got it. And then the second question, how much are we paying Steve Magoon for the work, or is he doing this pro bono?
Pro bono.
Excellent. Even better. Thank you.
He actually asked Sherry if he could meet with me. So I met with him, and he told me what his role was in Watertown. And I said, can you walk with me down the hall to Erin and Marissa? And we all came back to my office, and that's when we started to talk about, what role that he could play helping us. And so I think it's wonderful that he is, using his retirement time to help his home community. So he's a great guy.
That's excellent. No, I'm really glad to hear that. And, my only hope, I know you mentioned sort of continuing to, try to engage with MAPC just on some of the things that they've done. My hope would be that, they would be willing to work with us. They've done some good work with us in the past. I, worked with them closely on Vision 2030, and I was actually really impressed with the job that they did then. Something fell apart in this project, and my hope is that, I know we've expended whatever funds that they had allocated to it, but my hope is that they'll be supportive of working with, Erin and Marissa, with you two and with Steve, and making sure that we can kind of get this to a place where it's something usable. I mean, it's been a long time. I mean, we're probably 5-6 years overdue in terms of getting this done, so I'm glad we're moving ahead.
And I really need to establish a relationship with MAPC as well.
And I had a very nice call with Lizzie Wyant, the executive director at MAPC, about the process, and I think we both, had honest conversation about how this plan didn't go as planned, and she has a really great working relationship with Steve Magoon and gave her full support behind going this way.
And I should say, just in the interest of disclosure, so Lizzie is a friend of mine. I've shared some pretty candid feedback with her as well. I do think, and again, I'm a little biased, but I think that the leadership change at MAPC is a good thing for us. And so, again, I hope we can move forward and figure out a way to make sure that this, serves the goals that we need it to serve as a planning and guiding document for what we're doing in town.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Councilor Chrisley.
Erin, it's great to get an update on the master plan.
He was on my advisory group.
I know we had a lot of good information at those public meetings. And I know the document itself contained a lot of information, densely packed. So it's great that you've got someone to pull that apart and bring it to the actionable item stage. So it's great to hear the work that you've done. And if I can be an assistance moving the process forward at this point, I'd be happy to do that. So thank you to you and Marissa and Dee and Steve Magoon for all that hard work.
Thank you very much.
So just to build on that, as I'm looking at the website that you shared, I want to make sure that we're utilizing the advisory board because they put in a lot of time and effort. Absolutely. I would re-engage all the members because some have left town, and ask if they want to be a part. And I'd love kind of a timeline of what you guys are thinking. So you said fall's like 4 months. I'd love you will be back to the council in October, but what does that look like? So you talked about re-looking at stuff. Do you pull back the advisory board? Councilor Chrisley, was not a councilor when he was on the advisory board. So does he remove himself from the advisory board? I see Councilor Butler was the town representative, but I really would love you to ask all these people if they want to keep engaging, and then if there's some openings, maybe we fill those. You come and we look at some other people to fill the positions. But what are they signing up for as you're asking them? I just map out the process a little bit more. Steve, I'm so glad. Thank you, Wakefield resident Steve Magoon, and I'd love fall, but just a process timeline so this doesn't go for another 4 years would be great.
Sure. Yeah. I have a nice little spreadsheet here.
I love it, and I put it up on our website. Okay. And I'd add, this website. I don't know when it was last updated. I think that's something, as I'm looking to Jennifer behind you, of putting, when it was last updated, so it has the most recent but I think reaching out to the advisory board members and saying like we're starting the process. Our goal is to pass it in the fall. Like, are you still committed? Because I'm looking and there are people who have moved out of town, so they should not be serving on our advisory board anymore.
I was going to say our student representative has since graduated.
Yeah.
They may have graduated college.
Yeah. So, Councillor Constance.
Thank you, Erin and Marissa. This is great. One, I guess, question I had and something that struck me when I started in this role is how many kind of draft different planning documents that we as a town have out there, and some made it to the finish line and some didn't. And we're going to hear about the rail trail. We've got safe streets and the pedestrian bike plan and Vision 2030 and the draft master plan and the open space and recreation plan. Is part of your work stream to consolidate or to do anything so that we don't have
all these different
competing
plans.
threads? Yeah.
So I will say, I think something that we've been trying to be really mindful of is looking at the different plans as they've been going. So we have, housing production plan, open space and rec plan. We're trying to get to the
Didn't even
finish
mention that
line.
one,
Bike and ped plan,
Right,
you know?
right.
So I think myself and other people in town have been trying to be mindful of there's not conflicting interests, right, in these different plans. What I would like to do ultimately is kind of have this guide for the town showing the different plans that we have and maybe common themes that you see throughout them. So it's kind of like that's what the master plan is supposed to be, is looking at these different plans and having those common themes. So I think actually now that you say that, a lot of those plans have been approved. And so there may be a way that we could tie that into the master plan to make sure, we have those actionable goals that tie into those plans.
I just think otherwise we're in danger of, contradictory goals or, and there's.
Yeah,
and
that
only
is
so
something
much
that
people
came
can
up
do.
in the open space, I think, in housing production plan,
Right.
a little oversight there. But I think that's a very good point and
Okay,
something that
thanks.
we'll make sure we look into.
Thanks.
Councillor Carney?
Is there a draft master plan? I mean,
Yeah.
a document?
Yes, we have two drafts actually. So the first draft that we got back in September of '23, the one where we told them this needs to be kind of looked at again, and then we got another one in December 2024, where again it's better, it's structured much better, but the content's still the same. So I think it's the content now we really need to work on.
I'd like to see the last one.
Sure.
Just to
Absolutely.
familiarize myself with where we're going.
Perfect. Yep. We can
Thank
do
you.
Yeah, it's not on the website, so I don't.
As we were hoping we could make some edits and then post it up because we will do a public comment period, so it will be put up into the public. But yeah,
Perfect. But yeah, I would.
Okay.
If councilors want to see it, I'd get it to
absolutely.
them. And then,
Yep.
Yeah.
It's on the to-do list. It's on the to-do list.
That's Councilor Carney's to-do list, not my to-do
I'm
list.
starting one for you now.
It's two separate
Starting one
lists.
for you, sir.
And then as Councilor Constance just talked about kind of all these open reports and plans that we have coming out, Dia, I'm looking to you. Is that our goal as you get through this budget cycle and then we start July 1st, kind of the next budget, is to tie the work with the budget and departments like goals, right? So these are like clearly that we will have updates on them and it'll be like listed. The goal is to complete the master plan and that's what staff is spending their time on, right? Like, so it all ties in so we won't have these outstanding reports that we forget about sometimes.
Wonder about.
Yeah, we wonder about. So,
And those are all elements of a GFOA budget that you will be seeing next year.
what does that stand for?
I'm sorry. Government Finance Officers of America.
Love it. Great.
I almost said official.
Okay, anything else about the master plan project?
And I think, too, something I was going to say to the plans, I'm hoping we can create a chart, something I've talked to Marissa about, of all the different plans, the years that they're good for. And so we can kind of see an overlap and also stay on top of plans that are coming up on renewal or need some updating, so we don't end up like we did with the housing production plan again.
Perfect.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much.
you.
Thanks, Marissa. I
Thank
think
you.
you get to stay there, Erin.
do.
And we get to go to item D, Town Day, October.
My event planning hat now.
Yes.
Sherry, John Slominski from the Chamber may be on Zoom. If so, you can bring him over. I'm not sure if he could join tonight.
She's going to do the talking now.
Good evening, everyone. We were asked to come here tonight to provide you with an update on Town Day. I noticed on the agenda it says October, but the date reserved is actually September 26th, with a rain date of September 27th, which we hope we do not need. It is from 1 to 4 p.m. For those of you who don't know, Erin and I in 2021 were asked to create an event to bring everybody together after COVID. So we partnered up with the Chamber, I see John's on now, and created an event outside of the Civic Center. We heard, like Catherine said, that a lot of existing residents really wanted a 101-esque kind of thing. So inside the Civic Center, we had town departments, boards and committees, and nonprofits. In the back parking lot, we had a beer garden staffed by Idle Hands Brewing. And we closed Main Street out front, and that's where you had the food and the activities and the music. The event was fantastic. We called it Fall in Love with Wakefield because it was in October. Though we did hear some feedback that closing Main Street was pretty disruptive, not just to the people trying to get from here to there, but also for the neighbors. So the following year, we scooted it up onto the Common and renamed it Town Day, and it has had the exact same format ever since. Last year, the Chamber received a CASE grant, which is a program from our Economic Development Council for special events. And they supplemented that with corporate sponsorships and charged a nominal fee for tables. And each year we've had between 60 and 80 tables at Town Day, which again still have all the nonprofits and businesses and municipal boards.
And departments.
And departments, thank you. This year, they applied again for a CASE grant, and should they get that, we will see you in September. But I do think it's important for you to know that the CASE grants will be depleted by next year, and John has expressed to us that the Chamber cannot fund Town Day in 2027. And I just wanted to let you know that if this is something that is important, we will either need to we will need to come up with some creative ways to make sure that it happens financially. Did I miss anything?
Do you just want to give an overview of the event?
Yeah, so we typically have had live bands. We have kids' activities, magicians, face painters. We have demonstrations. We have all the tables. There are local food vendors and the beer garden. And in case you have the question, we've never had any issues. It's a very contained area. It's monitored, and the event is pretty short, and the lines are very long. So most people don't have the opportunity to get rambunctious. Erin and I and John and Francie and his team staff it, and it's a great day.
Yeah, it's a really great community event. We've seen rain, shine. We've seen it all. The sun helps a lot more than the rain to get people there. But it's been very successful. Last year, we had, I don't know, probably thousands of people there.
Touch a Truck showcase.
Touch a Truck is there. And so it's really a collaborative effort between all the different things that touches Wakefield, nonprofits, government, businesses. So, and then also I think from an economic development perspective, after the event, we talk about how do we get people downtown. If you go downtown, it seems like a lot of people end up staying within the area to frequent our businesses, which is always a positive. So it's a great day in town. We have farmers market in the morning as well. So it's great.
Flu clinic.
John, do you want to add anything?
It's a very collaborative event. The coordination between the towns and the chamber, it's very intensive. There's a lot of, orderliness that goes to it, administrative tasks, which we can handle in the registration and all of that. Francie and I work very well with Erin and Jen, and if you're able to see it last year, I know some of the councilors did, there were thousands and thousands of people there. It's a terrific family day with the events taking place, the demonstrations, the live band, as Erin mentioned, Jen mentioned, the magician, face painters. It's just a terrific event, and it took off right in front of the Civic Center, and since then, it's just kept moving forward. Unfortunately, as they mentioned, the Chamber just doesn't have the financial resources to put a lot into this. We try to get sponsors to defray the cost as much as possible, but everyone's trying to get sponsors these days, so there's a lot of competition out there for funds to pull this event off. We're doing the best we can to try and supplement that again this year, and we really hope, as Erin mentioned, It's no fun when it rains. When it's a nice sunny day, everyone's happy and smiling and dancing around. But when it's raining, we were like 3 wet ducks a couple of years ago, wandering around for 5 hours in the rain. It wasn't fun. So I'm very grateful for the support and appreciative of the support we have received from the town. It is a wonderful town event. We get a lot of positive comments from people that day about the organization, how well it's run. So the fire, the police, the toucher truck, DPW are all on board and been very, very helpful with different things that occur during the day and make this event as successful as it has been.
So the majority of the cost is for the labor for the police, fire, and DPW?
Yes, DPW is the biggest part of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of work for DPW. So it's about 11,500, John, last year?
The total budget, yes. DPW is roughly 7. Police were about 1,600. Fire, the chief is great. We just let him park for the toucher truck. He parks his truck right at the top of the street. So it's still online. If he needed to pull out, he can pull right out onto Main Street and be on his way. So the fire department didn't hit us up for anything this past year. The health department comes down. They take care of themselves. They set up the flu tent, the COVID tent, and other screenings. Tom Walsh has helped them somewhat when necessary. So everyone pitches in. It's a real team effort all the way around. So about I think it was 11.5, 11.6 total cost, if I heard you right.
Yes, that's correct.
Was that your question, Councillor Kirby?
That's not a lot of money, so.
Yeah.
Are you giving me another task?
78.
I think
I've been counting.
I think part of today's agenda, it's very heavy on like work not completed or upcoming things that the council would like to see, Dee. So this is a little bit of like, hey, next year.
For a long night.
But I think what you're hearing is like, these events are important to us, and like, and I know it's a lot of work from your team. They do a great job, but I think if there's ways of keeping it going, and also just like, as I'm looking at Liz, we'll figure out the budget stuff. But I know budgets will get tighter. But these are things that make Wakefield Wakefield, as you were at Town Day last year before you even officially started working. Yeah. But I think part of just having these on the agenda is fall's coming up quickly, summer goes by really quickly, but also just these are priorities of ours. I think, we all like to see these events. We've all enjoyed these events, and we hear from residents that they love these events. Anyone else? Councillor Tynes?
I just want to echo Councillor Carney's comment of, $11,000, $12,000 is not that much money. And so even if as we look towards calendar year 2027, this is something that I think is important to find a way to do it. I think there are other grants that we can apply for to help defray the cost. You guys are always so creative about figuring that out. But, certainly for the benefit that we get from it in terms of engagement with the community, in terms of individuals kind of coming downtown, particularly when the weather holds out, which I feel like, we hopefully started a new trend this past year in terms of clear skies. I do think that it has a lot of benefit and it has a lot of value to the town. And so I think it's relatively small dollars. Even if we ultimately had to fund it, it's relatively small dollars for an event that has a lot of benefit to the community.
One last comment, if I may. As the four of us have worked together, there are some great efficiencies of scale that we've accomplished by having done this together so many times. And I will state that the Chamber, when working with Erin and Jen, we do this for the community. We do this for the town of Wakefield in entirety. The Chamber does not make any money. We're not putting anything in our pocket from this. So whatever we collect goes towards the expenses and reduces any need for us to be reimbursed by the community. So it's truly a community event that's run with the cooperation and partnership with the town for the benefit of the residents and the businesses that are all able to participate in it.
Thank you, John. Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Jen and Erin.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to item E, Rail to Trail update.
Hey there, folks. How we doing? Bill Renaud, Town Engineer. got a quick little couple slides to include with us. All right, so first starting off, so Rail to Trail, we started this project back off in 2017, 2016, as a project with Linfield, if you recall. And basically around 2020 to 2021, we looked to advance a portion of the project through the grant allocation that National Grid needed to install their new 345 kV line. So the council, in their wisdom, included the requirement for them to install the first segment of trail. So that would be from Richardson, well, actually from Main Street to Salem Street. So that portion of the trail has been constructed, but it hasn't been open to date. So we had some issues with getting MBTA on board with granting the town our 99-year easement/lease to allow us to actually be on the trail. That happened last year at the council. If you recall, you signed off on that around this time in 2025. And at the same time, while all those things were happening, we were able to get a Mass Trails grant for about $400,000 to have each of the intersections, Richardson, Water, New Salem, Fitch Court, and Salem Street, all constructed through that grant program. We have held off on opening up the trail for a couple of reasons. We had some significant tree trimming that needed to be done along the trail to make sure it was safe for folks to be on it. That trimming was completed a few weeks ago here in April, so we're good on that stretch. We also have a couple of other pieces that need to happen. Fenced installation at the Water Street parking lots. We have a lot of folks that like to drive on that and use that as a driveway as opposed to a bike trail. So we're looking to install some fencing. This is an example of the fence we're looking to do. This is from the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, and that's pretty much the standard that's been used for that whole 30-mile run at each intersection. So those are under contract currently, and we're looking at a schedule probably in May for that work to commence. And then we also are going to look to install new bollards at each of the crossings. We had it only in Fitch Court, so the bottom right-hand corner photo you can see, that's the Fitch Court crossing. Those bollards, something similar, will be installed at all of the crossings. We've had a bunch of dumping that's been happening in the trail. So obviously trying to stop cars from driving down there and using it as their personal trash area. So that's where we sit with the overall plan. I'm expecting that we'll be open hopefully by July. That's kind of where I'm thinking the timeline will land. So we're pushing hard on that now. And then the remaining sections. So we're looking to advance the TIP project portion of this to 100% design. So that will be Salem to Foster's Lane. The majority of that is a boardwalk section. That's probably somewhere under $10 million, which is good to slide into the TIP for quick projects. We were tentatively scheduled for 2030 at this point, so that's why I have 2030 on there now. We're hoping that we can actually slide that up as we advance the design. So we'll be moving into to environmental permitting and some of those other pieces over the next couple of years. But as soon as we get to a point that we can advance through 100% design, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to slide into an earlier TIP year. Hopefully 28 is what I'm targeting.
Councilor Carney.
What happens beyond Foster's Lane?
So that's going to be done as part of Linfield's project. So,
Okay.
So the way Mass DOT looks at it, you can't have the trail just kind of stop on the town line in the middle of Reedy Meadow with no connectivity. So they call it independent utility. So you have to have a way to take the bike and get it onto a road or something else.
Yeah.
So they told us stop it at Foster's for your portion, and then they would continue with Linfield's section that will go through Reedy Meadow. That section of Wakefield would be included there.
So that's probably well after 2030.
Yeah, they have a lot. Yeah, they have a good amount of environmental work. That boardwalk, I think the entire thing is boardwalk over there. So that's a huge cost. So we've shrunk ours. I mean, we've probably completed about 65% of ours at this point. So we ended up looking at the project as a whole, and it made sense to kind of split into multiple projects. Originally, this was one huge project, and it just wasn't going to get on the tip. Similar to the Envision idea where we split, same idea. So.
And what surprises me is I walked that route as a kid.
Yeah.
And it was all, railroad right away. It was stone. And now it's all flooded?
Flooded.
Well, you're saying boardwalk. I thought you said
boardwalk from Foster's to Salem. That section will be over.
Okay.
To stay above the floodplain, that's part of what has to happen. And honestly, I mean, you can see water that's coming from Linfield now, from Reedy Meadow, flows into town. So that area, with beaver activity, all the other stuff. I mean.
But what about beyond Foster? Is that?
That'll still be boardwalk. Yeah, that whole area is flooded up. I mean,
Wow.
it's over the ballast in a bunch of sections. Yeah. So.
No, I was just surprised.
Yeah, no, same. Yeah. It was. You'll go through the aerials, you'll see, back in the day. I mean, you definitely, it was visible. You go out there today, you can't really walk it, even in the low flow season. So.
It's interesting. Thank you.
Councillor Chrisley?
Bill, thanks for that update. I know this project's been a long time coming, so congratulations for sticking it out through all these hurdles. You mentioned a possible July opening date for at least the first section. Do we have a plan for like an opening event for the rail trail? I think that would be a...
Yeah, we had talked about that, I want to say last year. So as soon as I have concrete dates on when all that work will get done.
Okay.
We have the bollards on order now, so I'm waiting on lead time for those. So just until I have this all hammered out, probably within the next couple of months, we'll be able to put a time on the calendar and have an event.
And
I know a couple of our delegation's been interested in it too, so I'm sure they want to go as well.
Great. Yeah, I hope you'll keep us all posted about that. And I know we had some damage to one of the other intersections, one of the other signs. I'm assuming, I've seen these bollards before. Are these pretty standard issue for
so they're a removable
damage
bollard.
proof?
Yeah, I mean the bollard themselves. I wouldn't say damage proof. That wouldn't be the word I'd use. But the key is to deter folks from driving on it. That's what we're trying to do, and so folks can't drive down it, back up with a pickup truck and dump all their trash. Right. So we've had a couple of times we've been out there to clean it up already. We're also looking at security cameras and a bunch of other stuff just to kind of stay on top of it.
Okay.
So we're working through all that logistically with DPW staff and IT.
And did I hear you correctly? You've got a RFP out for the fencing?
We already have, so we have an on-call fencing bid that we do. So through that bid, we've already got pricing, and we're awarding it. We've already awarded it to them. So we're just waiting on timelines from them at this point to get it in. They were talking last week, and I didn't see them. So, but I'm hoping in the next week or so.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again for the update.
Sure. Councillor Fox?
Thank you for the update. I know with all these new plans coming on board, is it all funded by grants at this point, or is there town money that be additionally needed to complete these processes?
So we're using some state money to finish up these pieces, and then the bollards will be through the town.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just unfortunately I didn't design it in when we did the trailheads, just because I didn't expect that to be really an issue.
No, I mean if everything else is covered, that's the one thing the town has to pay for.
Yeah, we have
that and possibly cameras to stop the dumping. So
right. And again, we still are going after the parking lot area as a separate grant through Mass Trails as well. So fingers crossed we get that as well this year, and usually they'll let us know fall time frame. So
great, thank you.
Sure.
Councillor Chines.
Thank you for the update, and I will second Councillor Chrisley's request for a ribbon cutting or something when we open, just because this has been a long time, and I think obviously some people are already using it, which is fine from my perspective, but it'll be nice to celebrate kind of the official completion.
Sure.
I want to ask about the Salem Street to Foster's Lane part.
Yeah.
Walk us through, please, just the timing of the TIPS process. So, fiscal year 2027 budget is happening now. I would imagine the timing of when decisions are made around fiscal 2028 TIPS funding is rapidly approaching. And all of this is sort of happening within, kind of the context of a more challenging budget situation.
Sure.
I guess I don't want to get sort of my hopes up that, we might be able to advance earlier than fiscal year 2030 in that environment. So walk us through the milestones of when we need to kind of complete our work and when we'll know definitively are we on the 28 versus 29 versus 30 TIPS
I'm
list.
expecting this time next year that we would have a concrete time frame to be funded, and then the goal is readiness at that point, right? So we've been on for 2030. We're going to get pushed to 2031 or 32 right now because we're not quite finished with the 25% design. So if you remember, we rolled in the rail to trail with the lower main portion of the Envision at MassDOT's recommendation. They have decided that recommendation isn't the best recommendation, so they want to split these back up again, which helps us fund the rail to trail because it's such a smaller number now because we've already constructed 60% of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we recently sent a letter to MassDOT back in February that highlighted the portions that are completed and what we wanted to have them fund now with the reduction in scope. We're waiting on that approval, which should happen, within the next month or two. And then at that point, we get our 25% design that goes in with the Envision project, and then we will split into separate projects. Then it'll be its own project number, and that's when I'm expecting it to be programmed somewhere in the 2030, 2032, and we'll try to move it up with readiness. And readiness, when I say readiness, I'm expecting the design on the remaining sections to go very fast. We already have concept sketches of the boardwalk. We have a pretty good handle on what we're looking to do.
Yep.
We originally had a full wooden boardwalk, which I'm not a fan of. I had to do a couple in my previous job, and I had to spend a lot of time doing repairs of those boardwalks. So we're trying to do a concrete steel, substructure, basically superstructure to get everything, basically just the decking itself is what's going to be, wood, composite wood, so that we don't have as many issues with this going down the line.
So with the decoupling of this from Envision, what does that mean for? And sorry, was it the lower main or middle main?
Lower main. Yeah.
So what does that mean? Do we think for the lower main project?
I don't think that changes it. We're still in that crash cluster area, which is a priority. So as long as we're in those and we're hitting those, we stay within that area and portions of the project stay there, then we're pretty high ranking in their criteria for the MPO.
I know the last time you had come to us, we were thinking, you mentioned you were thinking fiscal year 2028, was it at that point?
We were, and then they told us 2030. Again, I'm still hopeful for 28. I think we can pull this together within the, probably, I think we're going to be at the next submittal level. Once we get the 25 in, like now, we're going to just move forward with the rail to trail design and get that boxed up for 75% design. I want to just piggyback.
Yeah.
As soon as I get comments back, we're submitting with 75 right away.
But setting aside hope, we're talking, at this point, our best indication is fiscal 2030.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
But I am hopeful.
I appreciate that.
Very hopeful. Yeah, because what ends up happening is as folks don't, just like this is delayed, this happens in all TIP projects, right? So as they delay, one fiscal year may have additional funds, or it may turn out that this project's cost increased by $10 million, so now they can't get it done in fiscal 28 or 29. That's where a project of this scale slides right in. So that's why, this is a good situation for Wakefield.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Butler?
Sure, thanks again. Any chance of, I think, because it seems like the most expensive part of this is the Lowell to Foster's.
For us, yeah.
Like for us. So the question is like, in terms of trying to get, on the TIP program, doesn't make any sense to break it into a Salem to Lowell and a Lowell to Foster's in terms of like, the Salem to Lowell part would be pretty cheap and relatively easy versus.
Well, yeah. You could look at it that way, but there are boardwalk sections in there too. So
really?
There are. Yeah, there's some wetlands crossings. So the river comes through there, right? The head of the Mill River starts, and it's running parallel to the rail bed actually as you get towards Lowell and as you get to it over across in that section. Yeah. So we have wetlands and whatnot. That's what's, that'll be the next real phase is the wetland permitting, staying above the 100-year flood and all that stuff.
Drain the swamp.
They don't let us do that anymore.
I know.
That was the 70s. So.
Any other questions for Bill on the rail to trail? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
And for those keeping score, I now have a John list. Chrisley Carney and Giles.
I'll email you mine later.
The night is still young. Doug, Stacy, and Ryan.
Good night, folks.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, we are moving on to item F, the fiscal year 2027 budget. So when we last met, we had approved all the budgets for town meeting, and then we got some updated information, and we had a tri-board meeting 2 weeks ago. I don't even remember anymore, 2 weeks ago. And so now I'm looking at you, Dee and Liz, to kind of give us an update as we walk through this agenda item.
Yeah, so we've had several meetings between the summit, if you will, the tri-board meeting, the tri-board summit, and today, with some of the numbers changing. So we met with the Finance Committee on Thursday to hear what their recommendations were, and we thought it would be a good idea to have Ed come to talk about the investment income specifically, because that number has changed. And then we need to also talk about revoting some of our budgets. We are going to be proposing some cuts.
Thank you. So can we have Treasurer Dombrowski come and sit on that side of the table, please?
This feels different. Good evening, everyone.
Can you hear okay? Is that everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
So good evening. I had the chance to speak with Dee along with leadership on the Finance Committee. I know there had been some questions in terms of where we stand from really an interest standpoint relative to the funds that the town is holding. And I know there had been some discussion about this previously, before this body, as well as FinCom. So I don't want to repeat myself with that. I do have one slide that's up here that I'll just help walk everyone through. This is fiscal year 2026 to date, or more specifically, for the most part, through March 31st, with the exception of the OPEB revenue. Basically, we are in a unique position this fiscal year because of the amount of cash that we received through the bond sale that happened back in July of 25. That was right around $100 million or thereabouts that the town received. And so I have tried to deploy those dollars to make the most that we can while we hold on to them. Ultimately, we're probably looking at thereabouts the interest costs that we're looking at for the high school project. It's almost exactly 4.4126%, and a few more numbers beyond that. And so, having the money that we do, I have tried to place that in financial institutions that are going to generate the highest interest while we have those dollars. And a case in point, we've pursued a new relationship with Leader Bank. We have $25 million deposited there, and I was able to negotiate 4.75%. So when you think about it, we're able to actually make a little bit of money on the money that we have. There are certainly a number of rules around this. There's the issue of arbitrage, because the point is the municipality shouldn't be borrowing for the sake of making money on the money you're borrowing, right? That's not a good practice. But there's a lot of opportunity, even keeping within the Internal Revenue Code, especially with school building projects. So there's a good amount of time where you actually, when you're sitting on those funds or holding them, you actually can make money, a good amount of interest on them without running afoul of any of the IRC, or the Internal Revenue Code. And so that's precisely what we're doing. At this point, we have about $34 million left in high school funds that have not yet been expended. We have a very high burn rate for the high school project. We started at about $1 million, and those bills just keep coming to us, and we're paying them down. So I do anticipate, certainly those funds will be depleted. But in the meantime, we've been able to realize a good amount of interest. As the chart behind me shows, the high school bond account alone, we've earned just over 1.842 million through March 31st. And again, the account balance is going down, but the rates have been still pretty competitive. I know that
we're down. The 25 million is now at 4.4%, which is still far better than most people are getting through banks. And the important thing is we maintain total liquidity because we need to have that cash available in a moment. So things like CDs and the like, where oftentimes you might get a better return, we're actually getting better returns than most of the CDs that we've been quoted at. And it's really been negotiating with a lot of the higher ups at different banks, candidly, trying to pin one bank against the other to see where we can get the best. And we're spread out across 5 or 6 different banks at this time, and the money that we're using to pay the bills currently is the money that is getting the lowest return. So we're holding on to the funds that we're still able to make some more interest off of. So from an interest perspective, the general accounts that we have, so this is really, we'll call it the available money to us. Okay, it's not restricted. It's not tied up in any way. For fiscal 26 through the end of March, we're at just shy of $2 million in those general accounts. And I mean, in total, we have, as I note here, approximately 120 separate accounts. And that's something that our new assistant town administrator and I have spoken about before, trying to clean that up because it's far too many, and we can do a better job with that. The escrow accounts are a little bit different. Those are, generally think of it almost as, for those watching at home, almost like a security deposit. Those that's interest that we're making on that money, but it goes with the people to whom the money has been put up. So a lot of times this might represent things like if someone was doing a project that was on the public way and they had to put up some sort of amount or bond in some way, we're holding on to those funds, but ultimately they get that back with interest, like someone would, a rental security deposit. Again, the high school bond account interest is, I think, impressive. Again, at the 1.842 million, that will not be sustainable unless we're borrowing at 100 million a year, which is not going to be a very good practice for us as a community. But if you, as I've mentioned to our town administrator, if you can free up the money, we can make money on it. So, but I don't think it's going to generally be a very good practice for us. So our total bank account interest, if you will, is around 4.124, and that's from July 1 through March 31st. My office has also historically identified OPEB revenue in the financial reportings that we do, especially in the annual town report. The OPEB revenue we do not have control over. That is managed by the state and more specifically through PRIM, which is the Pension Reserve Retirement Management Board. So that's not within our control, but it is a reportable number, and we're at $622,000 on that. I put that in there just for the sake of completeness, not because we have a lot of opportunity to do much with that, and that really represents net gains on our OPEB statements when received. The third tranche, if you will, is the trust fund revenue, and we have a lot of different accounts under really the umbrella of 3 trusts. The Bank of America trust funds that I identify here, those are 4 accounts that are held for the BB Library. The BB Library actually has a number of accounts. A lot of folks will donate either property or cash, whatever the case might be, oftentimes with many conditions. And so, a lot of the time, we can't touch the principal as a town, for instance. So Bank of America trust funds, all 4 of those are actually BB Library related. Likewise, the Savings Bank trust funds, those 2 are 4 BB Library trust accounts. The master trust account is held at Eastern, and that actually includes, as I identify, 77 individual trust accounts, most of which are not large because the total amount of the master trust is only $304,000. But that would be cemetery, schools, the garden club. The garden club will come to us on a 3-year cycle and ask, any I'll call it interest or appreciation on their funds. They come in and look to sweep those out on like an every 3-year basis. So that's why that amount is small. The two trusts, the Bank of America and the Savings Bank trust funds are obviously larger, the Bank of America being the more substantial because that is holding a lot more of the BB library funds. And that is also something I would encourage this body to be aware of and Finance Committee to look at going forward. I know that a lot of the dollars have to be targeted. There's one trust for technology, for instance, but if we're looking at sharpening pencils, that might be one way in which we can look at that and not compromise, the services that the library is able to provide. In addition to this, a couple other ways in which we're looking to try to, I'll say, generate revenue, if you will. One is reviewing tax title specifically, and that's anyone who is not current with their taxes, their property taxes. My office will work with anyone on that, and we'd rather have a payment plan in place than have someone not pay anything. Even if there is a payment plan in place, to be clear, there are no discounts. There is statutory interest that applies to those dollars. So if you are in arrears on your property taxes, we will work with you, but the town will recover every dollar plus all of the interest that would have been required. So it's not a way of getting a break on your taxes, if you will. And we're also involved with active litigation with certain properties already, and we're going to continue to look at that as well. For the most part, a lot of situations where a property may have fallen into arrears, someone may have died, a family may own it, or it might be multiple, descendants of the owner, and it may just be neglected. There's a lot of different reasons. So we look at that and we take it on a case-by-case basis. When we pursue litigation, we also collect all of our costs relative to that as well, all of our legal fees, and so it doesn't cost the town anything to do that, right down to the recording fee when we get that squared away. So that's really where we find ourselves at present. I'm really proud of the work that my office has been able to do. I think we're just approaching things differently. And a lot of our when we have our taxes coming in, excise tax, property tax, and when those dollars are coming in, a lot of people are familiar with UnitPay. That's the processor for that, and so so the dollars we get in through UnitPay then automatically by default go into Unibank, which is their bank. We were getting negligible interest of below 1%. So I think it was a 0.8 or 0.9%. So we do regular sweeps as a part of our practice now. It's a standard operating procedure for us. So when we have money in, we sweep it out, we put into another interest-bearing account, and we're earning 4.5 times what we would otherwise be earning through that. So we're trying to do all that we can, and the good thing is that it will be ongoing, right? So these practices and procedures that we're implementing, that will be on a go-forward basis. The high school dollars are something that that's going to be a challenge for us. One other piece on the high school too. I just want to remind folks that we really we were very competitive, and we had 6 different institutions interested in the bonds when we put them out in July. We ultimately got I think very favorable rates, a very favorable rate. But keep in mind that the full effect of the high school borrowing has not been felt yet. The next payment is going to be it will be on August 15th. That'll be the first payment from the 100 million plus that we were able to close on at the latter part of summer of 25. And so you may recall that the average tax bill will be impacted by about $1,350 when all is said and done. Those were the estimates of late. I know property values have gone up a little bit since that time, but if you figure around that, I just caution folks that what you're seeing in your property tax bills now is not what is not reflective of the true extent of the borrowing that we've done to date. And then once we go into that cycle, we will have principal due on August 15th on an annual basis, and interest due on August 15th and February 15th as well, and that's a 25-year schedule for that borrowing as well. So that gets us to about technically 2051 on that. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I've just run.
Sure. Liz and Dee, anything to add? No. Okay. Thank you, Ed. This graphic is really helpful, and I appreciate you talking. What's a normal number for accounts, 120 is, you said that's a lot. What do you, I don't know.
Far less.
Okay, so
Not triple
I
digits.
appreciate you sharing that you both will be working on that. And also just take a moment to congratulate Liz as she takes a sip of her water. But congratulations
Thank you very much.
On officially accepting the position. You are new, the title being Assistant Town Administrator.
Finance operations.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you. I enjoy working here, and I continue to strive to do good things for the town.
Thank you. So this was really helpful, Ed. Thank you for doing that.
Sure.
So the reason I came up at the FinCom meeting is that, or the Tri-Board meeting, was that we were trying to figure out what the revenue expectations would be for fiscal 2027.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a number? Do you have any indications of what that will be as we're trying to approve a budget, like just to know?
Well, the revenue is really going to be interest, and that's going to be driven by a few things. One, it's the amount of money we have available and deposited. I think that the general accounts interest that you're seeing, the 1.95, that would be the steadiest assemblage of accounts, because again, the bond accounts, they're going to fall off. But we also a lot of that is driven by what interest rates are, though, too. And so if the Fed ends up with 3 cuts, right, that's going to have a profound impact on what we're looking at from that perspective. We're still, as I said, we're still negotiating. We're also in a very good bargaining position because we had a good amount of money to place. And certain banks really were looking for the cash, and so that helped us. So I think it's very difficult to say. Because interest rates are going to really drive that. I can say that we are definitely, and I had an analysis done by an outside firm that was looking to invest our dollars, basically in different ways, in essence, and they were quoting us lower. They did a full analysis. They were quoting us lower rates than we're currently getting just through what we're negotiating through the banks. So I'll say that whatever we're looking at market, I hope to still be beating that, through negotiation, with the banks, so long as that continues. But I think there's a lot of unknowns with that. And if interest rates do get cut, which seems like, a lot of folks are expecting that to be the case, it's going to be depressed.
Okay, so I'm gonna pass to the financial people on the committee. I thought you had your hand up, but both of you, either of you.
So Ed, I think this is very helpful. I think there's 2 stories always here. It's like the general accounts interest, but actually I'm concerned about the general accounts interest and the number there of $2 million through 3 quarters of the year, which would amount to, I don't know, a run rate of 2.5, 2.7, something like that. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to reconcile how we could have that level of interest payment, even at 4%, because that would imply 2.5 on a 4% interest rate. If you get $2.5 million, that's implying that you have $52 million or so in cash.
We're not even at. We're above 4 for everything.
Right,
but yes,
I'll give you 5.
Right.
And still, that's implying that we have close to $50 million sitting around. And we don't, I don't think.
This is reconciled to the penny. So we go through on a monthly basis. And so this is the interest that we earn on a monthly basis is what makes up this number.
I get it. Mm-hmm. I think that I'm not sure if there was commingling with the high school bond accounts or some sort of overflow there. I am more saying that it doesn't matter, if that's the level of interest that you've gotten or that you're getting, even if we give you a 5% interest rate, it implies that there's $40 million in cash. And I don't think there's $40 million in cash, or if there is on an average monthly basis. That's my concern, is that the town and the people who are planning for this are planning that they're going to get around $2 million in interest next year. And even at 5%, $2 million of interest implies that you're making that on an average run rate of a $40 or $50 million base. And that's where, and that's what I'm asking, like, do we have $40 or $50 million of available cash generally? And if we do, then why are we not marking it as that we have that much in terms of our overall reserves?
Do you happen to have a more precise number on that?
I'm going to pull it up as we're speaking, but there are times that we do have that for cash on hand.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that that's what we've made in revenue. That's just the timing of payments in and out. So if it's February 1st and tax bills have been due, there's a lot that we collect even ahead of that, probably 15 days ahead of that through different mortgage companies. So at that given point in time, we do have more than $50 million of cash.
No, and that's
hand.
great. If we have a general float rate, I mean, this is how like all the credit cards make money and whatnot, is if we have that, that's great. That was what my main concern around that number was. I was like, I can get the high school bond accounts, but what I didn't feel super comfortable with was the notion of us having around $50 million of float money.
I mean, at any given time, as a, for example, Unipay, we were easily transferring over $10 million. You know, so and then when we're looking at the excise, even like excise taxes, for instance, when we get that the Q1 of a calendar year, I mean that's tens of millions that are coming in. But to Liz's point, we're not sitting on it, but it's coming in, and it will come in. Any of the mortgage companies that are paying property taxes are always early on that. So yeah, we do have that float for that period, but it's even hard to say, Doug, what at a given point. Yeah, we could, but we may not, right? I mean. There's a lot of factors that go into that. If depending on what we're paying, what we have through accounting, through the warrants, we might have a lot available at a given time, but it could certainly be fleeting. But we're not hoarding cash, I guess, is the point. But I understand what you're saying. There has to be sufficient money to be able to generate this amount of interest, right? And it has to be held for a sufficient period of time.
It's more, I'm less concerned around your fiscal year 26. I'm more concerned around if because what have we historically gotten in interest? Probably half this?
Well, less.
Much less?
So, I mean, there's certain accounts that we're not getting interest. Other accounts were at very low interest. So I think it varies. I guess what I'd say is that, while the float we know when the quarterly property taxes are, and we know when excise taxes, right? So those, and excise tax especially coupled with property taxes, that's a good period, right, of time. But so the float is comfortably captured within the general accounts interests. If you look at it over the course of the full fiscal year, at any given point, where are we? Is it a steady line? Not necessarily a steady line, but there are going to be some ebbs and flows. But by and large, there was nothing. To my understanding, there's no real big infusion of cash in this fiscal year for any purpose aside from obviously the high school, which I separated out. Everything else is pretty much routine, as we'd see dollars coming in, which is primarily property taxes and then excise beyond.
Yeah, and this gets to probably both you and because you're on the revenue side of it and more probably on the expense side of it. I'm just saying to get yourself to $2 million, your average net balance has to be $50 million. And that's where I'm like, I don't know that doesn't seem terribly repeatable. It seems like we get to 50 million sometimes, but it would seem like you would get yourself down to after either a triple payroll week or month or something like that. It's just, again, for budgetary purposes, I'm fine if everybody's sort of telling me that it's $2 million next year. And that's assuming we keep it, at interest rates here.
But again, and this is only for 3 quarters too, right? So yeah, for fiscal 26, will we end up coming closer to, like you said, 2.4, 2.5? Potentially, yes. Do I think that's going to be repeated in fiscal 27? I don't, because I think rates are going to dampen those numbers.
Yeah,
but I don't think the revenue coming in is not going to be dramatically different. I mean, if anything, property taxes, that's going to be additional revenue coming in. If expenses are keeping in line, I don't think that's going to really throw things out of whack considerably. So I think this is the more predictable number, but again, there's a lot of variation still in that. So I would caution to not put too much stock in what the predicted fiscal 27 is going to look like. We can have a general sense, right? But I think there's a couple caveats to that, and they're important caveats.
But we have to put a number. Yeah. So Liz, is there a number that you're recommending for this, interest account?
So we have gone back and forth with the Finance Committee on estimates of what we feel comfortable with. I personally don't feel comfortable with a 2.4 revenue number for FY27. I do share the concerns of the treasurer, especially with the current state of the economy, and if we do have 3 rate cuts, that some of our interest rates will be reduced. So it's, I'm in the 1.2 range. I was even lower before I was convinced to, feel a little more comfortable with a higher number. And the Finance Committee, has their thought process on the amount that they are using in their forecasts.
Thank you. Councillor Chines and then Councillor Carney.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for walking through all this, and I think this is more detail than we've gotten in a long time, partly because we're looking at such different numbers than we have in the past. And I share the concerns of Councillor Butler just in terms of how do we make sense of this as we go forward. And one of the requests that I would have for you and for the town administrator and assistant town administrator is, I do think as we move ahead, I feel like we need to be looking at a balance sheet and statement of cash flows every month, just because this is sort of new territory for us, right? This was an easy number when we had things sitting in 0 interest accounts and we weren't generating anything, nothing to predict. We're in a different boat, and I think given the challenges that we expect we'll see in fiscal 27 and more appropriately in fiscal 2028, I think that we, as a town council, as a finance committee, as the administration, I think we all need to have a better understanding of where we are in real time, because it is going to make a difference. I'm probably not in as dire a place, assistant town administrator Rourke, as you are in terms of 1.2. I certainly wouldn't predict 2.7 or even 2. That does make me a little bit wary, particularly because this number is so much higher than it's been in the past. I would imagine there's also some impact of the fact that, as you've been negotiating, you've had not only the regular pool of funds that we use to float our bills, but, as you've pointed out, $100 million in financing for the high school. And while we know we're accounting for that separately, that does change our leverage with some of the financial institutions if we have $100 million less that we're putting in place. And so I do look at that number for fiscal year 2027 with some caution. On the high school piece, I can't remember, and I apologize, when we had our tri-board meeting, what we were assuming for bonding for fiscal year 2020, or interest for that for fiscal year 2027. It was a much lower number, as I recall, in the hundreds of thousands.
I was not forecasting anything for that. I believe that was the Finance Committee, while working with the treasurer, for a conversation that took place prior to the meeting.
But for that number, you mentioned, Treasurer Nabarski, we have about 25 million left unspent. Is that? We have about 34 million of the approximate 100 million that we got it. But the burn rate on that is, we're spending $8-10 million a month. Yeah, I mean, again, but that's not even necessarily steady. It's we're spending a lot, but it's not like it's not a steady. Sometimes it's larger chunks, less frequently, basically. But it's the burn rate.
You're starting at 34 today. It's going to be something less than that on July 1.
Oh, definitely. Oh,
and we're going to be spending that down. So I guess as I'm trying to do the math on that one, it feels like it feels like it would be hard to imagine anything more than $500,000 in interest income from that tranche of money in fiscal year 2027.
Oh, I don't think we're looking at very much at all, because as of from July 1 forward, I mean, I think we'll be holding on to some money because I know until the project.
We have to take down the old building.
Right, exactly. So we will be holding on to some money, but no, I mean, we'll be nowhere near that number for the high school. It'll be mostly depleted at that point. Sure.
Yeah. So I guess that's where again
it won't be zero.
I feel like there was a higher number that we talked about at the tri-board meeting. It feels that number feels very squishy to me. At this point. So like Dan Sherman is just pointing.
There's like charades going on in the back.
I was going to say, if you could remind me of what we were talking about 2 weeks ago.
I'd be happy to. Good evening. Dan Sherman, Finance Committee. First of all, I want to thank Ed for his changes. It's been outstanding. Because until I did some analysis on our investments, and for 2019, we made a whopping $200,000, 133, then 47,000 in 21, 54,000 in 22. Then things started taking off, and the fact that it is now having monies come in and it not being invested in a zero account, or maybe 1/10 of 1%. He's now getting 4%, and that's the piece. I was talking to Doug after our finance committee meeting and the tri-board meeting. I said, "What is he doing different?" Now we know he's getting this money invested more aggressively very soon, and that's made a huge difference. In terms of the high school bond, what I did was go to the OPM report, which gives a prediction. They get it every month from the Permanent Building Committee, of what they have for cash and how their burn rate. So it's a monthly update that they receive. I had the original one back in December of 22. I received one for the March of 26 a few weeks ago. I put that into a spreadsheet, and the burn rates are like 8.9 million for example, in June, they're expecting to spend 8.5 million and 8.2, and all the way down through December of 27. So we've got, like you said, tear down this building, put up a new track and field, and so there's going to be, money being spent all the way through December of 27. So we've got a year and a half yet to go. So what I did was just take the total balance off that OPM report and take that run rate, burn rate that they're going through, and then I just thought, I'm going to start with 3% interest. I don't know what the right rate is. Nobody knows. I decided to take a conservative 3% and took the outstanding balance in each month, multiply that by 3%, 1/12 of that, and come up with a figure and add it all up. So what I came up with for fiscal year 27 is 1.4 million versus what we got, 1.8 in counting now for the high school. Is obviously to finish higher than that. So I end up with 1.4. And then for 28, I end up with 171,000. Now, I'm guessing. I don't know what the rates are going to be, and I don't know how much of the 98 million that we've got is actually invested. A portion of it's probably not being invested. So that's where my numbers came from.
Got it. So just to wrap my head around kind of the difference here. So we think the difference is just sort of where the dollars are parked at any given time, because obviously it's got to be pulled out of the investment account before it can be spent. There's time, there's time where the money is not going to be earning anything, right? Correct. Because we're in the process of paying bills. So I guess the point that I would make, and I think what's becoming clear to me, is that 1.4, to me, that is not a real number for fiscal year 2027. That's probably ahead of the real number by maybe $1 million.
28, you mean?
No, for fiscal year 2027.
Are you referring to we're talking about two different things. So Dan is talking about the
bond.
the bond.
Just the bond.
And Liz was talking about just the general account, the general accounts.
No, I understand that, but the 1.4, if we only have $34 million left of cash that we're hanging on to, if we've either spent or have kind of moved into kind of an active use account to be able to pay the bills that we're paying every single day, it feels very unlikely that we're going to generate $1.4 million off of
You're absolutely
what will
right.
probably be $25 million by the time we get to the beginning of the fiscal year.
When I heard the figure of 30 million, I'm going, okay, so where's the other 60 million?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm using 98 million from the OPM report, and he's investing 34. It's, oh, I'm way off. Well, I mean,
on the flip side is, I think he's also, like, the other thing we will be building up is, and I think this is longer term and probably will matter more probably in 28 and 29, but we're not going to have principal repayment for 5 years, but we're still going to have to build that debt service fund. So we'll earn treasury interest on that, I assume, for the interim time until we have to pay it off. So, like,
whatever our float is that
right,
we
like, so
collect
everybody
is
who
gonna
has a
be little bit
mortgage, you're
higher.
paying some
Yeah.
interest and you're paying some principal every month. For the bond, we just have to pay cash out as the principal, but we also don't leave it until the end of the 30 years and then have to pay $200 million in one chunk. Every homeowner, part of the increase in your taxes is going towards paying that principal back, and so we'll be able to invest that principal payment until we actually have to distribute it to the bondholders.
So all of this kind of gets me back, and I'll wrap up. That I think the number we pick for the forecast for fiscal year 2027 is really important, and I don't know that we've landed on a place for that yet. And secondly, I think it just reinforces the importance of the reporting, the monthly balance sheet, the monthly cash flow statement, because there's a lot going on here, which again, hopefully is all good stuff. I do think we're in a better position than we were, and I appreciate the work that your office has done on that, Ed, but there are a lot of moving parts here that have some pretty, kind of wild swings in terms of our understanding of, what is the revenue that we have to not play with, that's not a good way of putting it, but the revenue that we have to work with for fiscal year 2027 and forward.
I do think if you look at the general accounts interest, again, assuming we land somewhere around 2.4, by the end of this fiscal year, ballpark. I mean, if we were at 1.5 conservatively next year, I don't think that feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I know assistant town administrator, it's a little bit above where you're at, but I mean, 1.5 that's a $900,000, decrease, right, theoretically, on what should be pretty steady, dollars coming in. So unless, and I do think, as we've seen with the Fed, I think any rate cuts are going to be deliberate and slow. I think there's a lot of factors. We're a country at war right now. There's a lot of economic considerations. There's a lot that would go into that kind of decision making. So will we see rate cuts? Likely, but is it going to be so accelerated that we're suddenly, in the 900,000?
I would
Probably
imagine it would
not.
take some time to kind of work through what you've negotiated as well, just because, if you've got dollars tied into some, kind of medium-term investments, it's not like the Fed's cut rates and, the rate you've negotiated, goes away that day.
Well, there's when I can, I'm trying to lock in like a rate through a guaranteed date. For instance, so with the 25 million that is still parked in the highest earning, that was guaranteed 4.75 through end of 25, and so now I'm working with them on that, and now it's at 4.4, which is still far in excess of like some of the 3.75s that we were getting quoted elsewhere, and those are real dollars on $25 million. So that's the 25 million we're going to touch the last. That's like the money that's under the mattress, but working for us. So that's how we approach it.
Sorry, one last question. The analysis that you said a third party had done for us, would it be possible to share that as well, just as another kind of set of parameters around what we might be looking at on?
I could ask them for it. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it was they ran our numbers, and they were it was certainly a sales. It was a firm that was looking to get our business, but it certainly, I can have it circulated. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carney.
Here's
Oh,
what-
sorry.
No, that's okay. Go ahead. It's your turn.
I want to compliment Ed. Great job. This is impressive, and I appreciated the dialogue between the representatives and yourself. I understand it myself. The 1.9 under the general accounts, that's not going to go any higher.
It will for this fiscal year because it's only through March 31st. So for fiscal 26, that number is going to be higher.
So you'd have to have $50 million in the bank for the last 3 months.
Right, but that's pretty standard. I mean, again, give or take, just because the when tax dollars come in, like sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Fox.
Thank you so much. It seems like this wasn't being done in the past. This is a refreshing change to make all this extra money off the interest. So I guess 2 questions. One, let's say your numbers are wrong and we get more and we budget a lower amount. Where does that extra money go? And then the opposite of that, what if we plan something that doesn't come true? What's the risk then? Basing it off interest rates.
So the excess revenue received would generate free cash. It's an undesignated fund balance. And if we were way off on our revenue assumption, we would either have to do a modification to some of the expenditure budgets, see where one of our other revenue lines may be coming in higher. We have the opportunity to adjust our revenues at the tax recap time, but that's still in November, so you may need to go further into the fiscal year to see where your revenue stands.
I mean, it almost seems like it's found money the way you're doing it.
Well, I will say too, like this, there's no like mystery behind this. At any given point, I can provide you like this is where we are. This is the dollar amount in the fiscal year. So, I mean, we do reconciliations to the penny on an annual, on a monthly basis. But this doesn't have to be an annual exercise. At any point in time, I can have this information available. And it's the math is mathing is what it comes down to because it has to. And so I do think that we can see where we're at even on a quarterly basis to make sure that actuals are tracking with what we forecast that to be. Certainly, I would rather be conservative and be pleasantly surprised than rely upon more dollars we may potentially have. But I think if you're in the 1.4-1.5 range, that doesn't feel like a stretch, especially against the approximate 2.4 we're at this year.
Let me. Town Administrator Casey.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is next year's budget process is going to look very different than it did this year. Liz and I are used to a very different way of approaching. You usually start with revenue. So we're not having these last minute discussions on how much revenue do we have. Usually you start with a revenue and fixed cost committee. That's a subcommittee made up of school committee members, finance committee, and staff. And we look at these numbers and we decide upon, okay, this is what we think the revenue is going to be. And then we take off the top all of those fixed costs, health insurance, debt service, all of that. And then you're left with a bucket of money. And depending on the community, that bucket is then split between town and school. And that's the money that you have for revenue to spend on expenditures. And then you move to the expense side of the budget and start looking at salaries and that. So it's going to be very, very different next year. I didn't want to make any changes this year, obviously, because it's my first year, and change is hard for people. But we're used to running it very differently, so next year will be different.
Councillor Butler, anyone?
Anybody else?
Nothing.
And this is probably more for y'all. In terms of that 1.5 number that you were thinking about, was that just bank account interest, or was that overall investment income that you were hoping for? Because I think for overall investment income, I think the OPEB revenue is probably around where it typically ends up, and similarly trust funds. So that's probably an additional $1 million there.
So the revenue that we use is general fund revenue, so it would be
Okay.
the general fund investment income, so that would not include the OPEB revenue. And for my sake, it doesn't include the escrow guaranteed deposit account interest. So I can only be, concerned about general fund revenue.
Oh, so where does the escrow account interest go?
So for my accounting on my balance sheet, it's not part of usable revenue because that's revenue that we're going to have to potentially pay back to somebody.
Oh, we're gonna have to give them the interest?
Yes.
It's just like a security deposit. So
Oh yeah, like I wasn't sure if you had to pay back.
No, yeah, so that's why the first
okay.
is
All right, that's fine.
available for use. The second is not.
Exactly.
That's just more informational. That's where we're at with this.
Okay. So
for me, I
Liz,
look
you
at
don't-
the top line.
You don't factor in the high school bond account?
In a regular fiscal year for investment income, that isn't always happening. So yes, we have a piece of that in there, but that's not part of our annual budgeting.
Got it.
But again, the trust fund revenue, while there are certain restrictions on that, it's not like that's available cash to us. Because there are so many accounts affiliated with the BB Library, from a budgeting perspective on a go-forward basis, I think that that's something that we have to recognize is an available,
right, the
revenue
BB Library
source.
gets $100,000 basically in trust revenue every year, and then just we have to factor that into either their budget or not.
I think that these accounts generally have not been as a part of the discussion when we're looking at, especially budgeting for the library, and I think they can and should be, because that's what these accounts are intended for. So that is one place where we really are amassing. And in fairness, we can't dip into the principal in most cases, and there are restrictions relative to that, but that's not to say that when we're looking at the library budget on a go-forward basis, we couldn't factor that in a way that I don't believe it has been, at least in my time.
And I think that's one of the benefits of having new people is that we're looking at things differently that maybe weren't looked at in the past.
Yeah, I think with the trust funds, it's Dee and I were trying to, and with Liz's help, trying to figure out like the Sweetser fund that we have, right? Like we have these accounts that have money, and hopefully, it's finding interest on them at good rates. But we do have a lot of accounts, and it's nice just to get in the future kind of get a makeup of all that so we can understand the total picture. And I don't know whose list it goes on. Maybe we'll add it to Doug's list.
89.
Do you want to take it?
I'll take it.
You gonna take it, John? All right, we got it.
Well, the
It's
trust
on here.
funds-
It's been 9 years and I've never seen a sheet like this, and it's just super helpful. And so I think if you're reporting stuff monthly, let us see it as well, because I think that'll make the budget process next year a lot easier if we get consensus going forward and we're not just, hearing about things right before we're meeting. That would be really great.
Absolutely. It also helps with transparency too.
Yep.
I mean, this is a public
Those
meeting.
trust funds are invested like OPEB funds. They're invested in stocks, bonds, everything else. They're not bank accounts. Like Ed's stuff, and this is to commend Ed, he's done a great job increasing our, revenue pull through. Now, comparing to 21 when rates were 0 isn't fair, but he's increased it dramatically this past year. And the most important thing for everyone is he says he's being aggressive. They're aggressively courting higher rates. They're not investing this aggressively. This is not at risk money.
No, this is not at risk money.
This money is not at risk. It's like your bank account.
Yeah, it's literally like
It's not going
your
to
bank account.
the casino, is what you're saying?
You didn't give the money to me.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Chines.
Just, before we get to town, I know this will be in the materials for town meeting, but it would be helpful to know sort of, at least in advance of town meeting, so we can think about, kind of how this is all coming together, what we're ultimately assuming for, interest income for both kind of the general fund as well as the bond, the high school bond accounts. I know we're talking about cuts, and I think we all know that, we still have a gap between revenue and expense, but I'm a little nervous about the fact that I don't have a great, I have a rough sense of what that is, but I don't know that I have a great sense of where we are right now.
It just got worse.
Yeah.
I was using, obviously, 1.4 for the high school bonds for 27, so what I'm hearing about 35 million, not 98 million being invested, now I'm at, 600,000.
I mean, that's $1 million.
Basically, $1 million just went away, so I'm now going to be carrying a deficit for 27 of somewhere around $2 million. Even with all the things that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, we have a $2 million deficit.
Well, thank you, Ed. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks for making us all that money.
Thank you, Ed, very much. I owe you dinner. I do want to say, too, just
Congratulations and thank you, Madam Chair. I know this is your last meeting. I know we started together 9 years ago.
We did, and we're ending
this
together.
This would have been, the last, so congratulations and thank you for your service to the town.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
everybody.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it.
Moving on to item F3, salary contingency budget.
Okay, so the salary contingency budget is another practice that Liz and I are used to doing in other communities where you anticipate where you're going to land with your open collective bargaining agreements, and you put that money aside in a salary adjustment or a salary contingency budget so that at which time we settle our agreements, we can then pay. Hopefully we settle before June 30, but if we don't settle before June 30, we can then pay the employees their new salaries and their retro at that date. So the practice has been waiting till town meeting to then vote those budgets and do the retro and then pay the employees. So it's just getting the money to the employees at a more efficient time.
You mean normally we would wait till the fall town
Yes,
meeting and
fall town meeting.
retroactively?
Yes, that's my understanding of the practice.
So we would write one big check for whatever
So they would
people's
wait.
COLA was?
They would wait for their raises.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't seem like a good practice. Okay, so you are are you creating a new line item?
So it's going to be its own departmental budget. It is entitled Salary Contingency. It is new for FY27, and the departmental request for FY27, based on the open agreements that we have, or expiring agreements that we have, is $728,461.59.
And these are for 5 of our units and 3 of them of our largest employee bases, 2 police unions, a fire union, and public works. And then the other is the supervisories union.
Councillor Carney.
I find it interesting. It's almost like when you sit down and negotiate, you have an open checkbook here.
Mm-hmm. So there's 2 trains of thought on that. I can guarantee that probably the unions can't figure out what we're going to be presenting to them as a percentage base, because there are 5 unions of all varying size and varying salaries. So unless you knew every single person, every single salary, how many in each unit, and then reverse mathed that amount, I'd be impressed if somebody could do it.
No, I just find this interesting. I'm not against it. I think it's a good.
Well, the unions were quite pleased, so.
Oh.
Can I just ask, as I'm looking at Dan Sherman, does this make us more in the hole then, instead of dealing with it in October at town meeting? Is this just we're adding?
I would just describe it as it's getting the settlement implemented faster. So they're getting their money more expediently. So rather than waiting till November, if we settle in July, if we settle in August, they're getting their retro payment and their new compensation at that date.
But was this factored into the budgets that we approved already?
No. That's why it's separate.
So this is a
this
new
was not-
$728,000.
But it was factored in the forecast that we walked through
Right.
at the tri-board meetings.
Okay.
But wait, it wasn't factored into the budget that we saw for police and fire?
But it was factored into the forecast.
Separate from all the budgets.
Why don't you come up, because they can't hear you, so.
I should have just stayed here.
You can come up
Mr.
too,
Sullivan, you
Jim.
should come up as well.
Chair Sullivan.
So, given the discussions for fire, police, and DPW, I came up with some rough math in terms of what this agreement might cost. My figure is close to that. There's a little bit higher because I don't have the supervisors. I did DPW, fire, and police. But also, I'm not going to say what kind of a COLA assumption I'm using. This public meeting. But I came in, a little bit less than what Liz has, but within spitting distance.
Yeah, that's all I was going to say. I mean, when we're forecasting, we're trying to include everything that we are aware of because we don't have to work in the same parameters that Liz has to work within. So we're trying to include everything and trying to make sure we're being conservative and aggressive at the same time when we have these dialogues. As Councilor Fox mentioned earlier about, when we settle on a number and it comes in less, what happens? And we settle on a number and it comes in more, what happens? And myself and others on the board, and Dan included, we continue to try to budget it as tight as we can, because we've had some years where we've had $4 million of free cash come in when we didn't expect that to come in, for example. And so we have these hard conversations about budgets and the needs and things like that, and we're arguing over nickels and we get quarters later. So we continue to try to tighten it up as best we can with the best available information. As Dee spoke earlier about taking a look at the income side of things earlier, I think we're thrilled to hear that and welcome that. In both cases, at the end of the day, we continue to spend more than we seem to be taking in, at least in historical sense. And the money that Ed has been working to gain is helping us, as you would expect it would, but within reason. We're not trying to overreach. So.
Okay, any questions about the salary contingency budget?
Yeah, because I think when we saw like the personal services budgets, they were coming in at 3 or 3.5%, 4%. They were not. They weren't coming in flat. Like
They
if
weren't
I go
coming in
back and
flat,
look at
'cause
the
you'd still
budget
have steps.
but I don't think.
But like DPW was like, I think it was like 0.5% or something like that.
Yeah.
I know the police budget was like 1 point something in total, and it had no line item in there, I believe, for potential COLA increases. I've got the list here.
All right, and that might have been something different from what we had typically done in the past, and that might be changes that you're making. So that I just thought I remembered seeing personal services not being a very small number, a 1.5 or something like that. I thought it was the typical number we see, which is 3 to 4. And if it was 3 to 4 plus the $700,000, then we'd have a problem.
Yes, I would have a problem as well. But
We'd be in trouble.
You should have a copy of the summary sheet of all the budgets that have been presented from January until now. And police is 1.25 increase over FY26.
Councillor Fox?
How long will these contracts be good for?
We are proposing 3 years.
3 years, okay. So if we do it this way and it works great, 3 years to come back, you could do it again. If it doesn't work, you'd at least have future reference.
Correct.
This is what I'm carrying. Seems worth it to me then.
Well said.
Okay, any other questions about this? Do I have a motion?
Yes, move to approve the salary contingent budget, contingency budget as proposed for fiscal year 2027.
Second.
Great. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Unanimous, 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to potential budget updates.
So after the Finance Committee meeting on Thursday, Liz and I went back to look at some of the recommended reductions that they were proposing. We had the opportunity to talk to department heads, and the strategy was to look at cutting in ways that's going to be the least impactful to employees, and where we can, delay projects. And so the list that we came up with was we now will have a vacant town accountant position. So we're not going to be filling that immediately. We'll probably fill it halfway into the fiscal year. So there'll be savings in this fiscal year because we'll have May and June savings from not filling that position. And then we'll probably wait an additional 4 to 5 months as we're getting into the budget season to then start filling that position. So we estimate that's around $75,000. Animal control, as you know, with our new contract, we saw a reduction in our responsibility for that position. So we looked at that line item, and we think that we can shave about $5,000 off of that line item. In assessing, we have a reduction in some consulting fees, so we can see a $15,000 deduction in that budget. Police, the 49th officer, we're going to delay hiring that for half of the year. Even in the best of cases, hiring through civil service would take us about that period of time. So the chief is comfortable with waiting. In Public Works, in the Hurd School, we're going to discuss shutting off the heat for the winter. That's about a $20,000 expense to the town. And so we need to have some conversations with the Friends about, that's where they store their books. So we're going to have to start having a conversation about that. But that's a significant amount of money to be heating a basically vacant spot. Public Works, we have another vacancy in Parks and Forestry. So again, not only enjoying savings for this year by not filling it now, we're going to fill it in the winter. So that's about a $30,000 savings. And then in veterans and veterans benefits, the benefits have been trending down. So we went back to Dave Mangan because unfortunately we're losing some of our veterans. So he was comfortable with cutting $20,000 from that account. He feels that that is money that we won't need, and that is a place that we could responsibly cut. In terms of warrant articles, we're reducing the parking lot from 350 to 100. So we're saving $250,000 there. The 100 is to keep a matching grant. So if we wipe that entire amount out, we'd be losing on a grant. So we're keeping 100 aside for that grant. There was a retaining walls, plural, warrant article that we're going to delay. And speaking with Public Works, they were okay with that. So that's.
What are we going to do with the, how are we doing a third of the parking lot, or like half, since we're getting 200 grand for it instead of?
I can't answer exactly how much that would get us for the parking lot, but I do know that we have to keep that amount of money according to DPW so that we don't lose that total ability to get more grant on that.
And that was, wasn't it multiple parking lots? Because it was I feel like it was like Richardson plus like the article as we discussed it had some funds in it for doing some stuff at Sullivan and maybe a couple other places.
I believe that's accurate.
So this would be basically bringing the scope back down to just the Richardson lot.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Jim, did you have something to add?
Councilor Chines hit it. The intent was to keep that money in there for the rail trail parking to try to get that grant. So the money is in there. If the grant is received, then DPW will consider using that or trying to figure out how to make use of the grant with that money. Or if they don't get the grant, then the money could be returned.
So retaining wall will delay that. And was there anything
That's
else?
$100,000 for that retaining wall project. And then for the building study, that was the warrant article to look at all of the buildings. We're delaying that. So that was another $150,000. And then out of shared services, calculating the savings on the benefits, the health insurance for those positions that we're going to leave vacant is about $52,500. And again, we made the very hard decision to not fund OPEB. So that's $500,000. So the cuts that we came up with total they're recommending that the school department make cuts, and I'll let them speak to that, but our portion looks like it is $1,262,500 from the town side.
Can you just repeat that 1.2?
$1,262,500 between the warrant articles, shared services, and the town side.
Okay. Councillor Carney.
As far as OPEB is concerned, you're not funding it for this year,
Correct.
but we're not taking anything from it.
We intend.
We are, yes.
So that's even beyond this.
Correct.
So how much is that?
1.5
million.
Do we have questions for Dee and Liz?
They just answered it.
Okay, perfect. So then, Jim and Dan, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the proposals that the FinCom approved last week?
Right, so the information that Dee just went over, we were in line and sort of worked together collaboratively on these numbers. I don't know if there's any slight changes from our last meeting, but I think it's the same relative to the articles, $500,000. And then, as Dee explained, the other numbers. The effort at this point is to try to close the gap on the potential need for using free cash to balance the budget. So these cuts have a fair amount of impact on the financial side, but a sort of a lower impact on the services side. Given where we are in the budget cycle, the 1.5 million that we're using from the OPEB, and not funding the OPEB for 1.5 is a $2 million swing. So that's sort of the substantial consideration. It didn't come without a lot of deliberation and sort of something that has not been done. But Dan can speak to it. But we're in a wonderful shape from an OPEB perspective compared to others, and we think at this juncture where we are right now on the calendar that this is potentially the right thing to consider. The other item, we sort of looked at it in three groups: the town side, the article side, and the school side. And on the school side, we plan on recommending a $300,000 reduction in the school budget, and that is not something that we sat down with the school committee and spoke to them directly about, how that would work out for them and how they would consider those numbers. But that's where we felt we could settle on a number that got us close to around $1 million of potential use for free cash. But as we sat tonight, that number continued to move. So the potential use for free cash is going up again. And I don't have that exact figure, but we felt these cuts were something that we felt were acceptable at this point. That's not to say that more cuts might be warranted or could be considered, but that's what we felt we worked through last week.
If I may, on the OPEB side, so we have about $48 million in the OPEB trust fund. And I think for those of you who have been around for a long time, this is something that was dear to my heart, and I pushed very hard to get us to fund it. We are probably about 45% funded against a roughly $100 million obligation. And it pains me to start taking money out now substantially. I don't see we have a choice. We're pulling 1.5 billion, but the PRIM Pension Reserves Investment Management Group at the State House, or not the State House, but the state program, has been earning about 8.8% per year over the last 35 years. We've done extremely well with both pension and OPEB on those returns. If we assume a conservative 7.5%, we get about $3.5 million per year in investment income. So if we're pulling out $1.5 million out of that, if you will, we're still increasing our OPEB fund about $2 million. I don't know how our rating agencies, S&P and so forth, are going to look at that. If they're going to say, why are you spending the money now? Continue to grow it. hard to say, but at this point, I think it's the lesser of all the evils that we could come up with in terms of trying to close what was a $4 million deficit that now looks like is closer to $1.8 million, $1.9 million, because with Ed's 35 million instead of 98 million, that just throws my numbers completely out of whack. But we're still looking at probably a $2 million shortfall for fiscal year 27. Our free cash is roughly 12 million, I think, something like that. It was 12 million. Right now, we're going to drop below our 10% policy at the end of 27 and 28 and going forward. So we still have a lot of work to do. I hope I answered the OPEB question.
Councillor Chrisley.
One question about saving on the heat at the Hurd School. Is that in danger of, from my knowledge, of shutting down facilities for even a short period of time? I mean, it's...
We would winterize it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Councillor Chines.
Thank you for the update and the analysis. The OPEB conversation is a hard one for me as well, because we have fought really hard for that and have made some good progress. It took me a little while to get to sort of the notion of not funding OPEB, taking the $500,000 out. But I think that that's the right move. I'm struggling a little bit with the 1.5. I do have some comfort in the fact that we're earning more than that a year, so we're not going to be depleting the balance. Mm-hmm. And I think that probably puts me at a place where this makes sense. However, effectively, we're taking kind of a one-time cash benefit to try to get the balance close, get the budget closer to balance, which means that's $1.5 million that we need to then figure out how we're going to fund next year, above and beyond where we are, because I don't think we want to be in the habit of taking that money out of OPEB year over year.
So in my forecast, I'm taking out $1.5 million every year for the next 10 years, and we still run out of money in 2029, and our reserve gets to zero in 2031. Mm-hmm. And I'm taking out $1.5 million every year in my forecast. That's what I'm saying. We still.
But I think that's the problem, right?
That's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it probably is what it is. I mean, as I mentioned at the tri-board meeting, I do think. I mean, the good news is we are not all that far away in sort of budgetary terms in terms of funding our pension obligations, and I hope at that point. Whoever's on the council at that time has the foresight to then make sure that we're using those dollars to backfill OPEB. But it's tricky. I mean, we fought really, really hard, and I think had a lot of discipline to add the dollars into OPEB that got us to where we are. And so this is a painful one.
Councillor Carney.
Dan, in your experience, where are we compared to most people as far as OPEB is concerned?
We're like 98th percentile. We're way ahead about almost everybody.
Yeah, that's how I thought.
Yeah. We're way. The only community that I know that's is probably 100% funded is Wellesley, but they did debt exclusion, and just so now they're paying for it separately than the OPEB line item, but they're 100% funded on OPEB.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure we want to do it that way.
No, we're not going to do it.
I mean, Doug, that compounding interest could work to your favor, right?
Well, no, remember I told Steve back when rates were like crazy low, he's like, roll out the truck, borrow everything you can.
Yeah.
But I guess the other question is what was the GIC increase this year overall? Like, so we're taking out 1.4, but we had a massively... Like, we've been able, I mean, I don't want to say this, but we've been largely able to do a lot of our funding of OPEB because we saved so much money in the GIC. So we essentially were able to transfer, like, health insurance payments now to health insurance payments later. Now, other towns did other things with that savings, but we saved a bunch of money. Now the GIC is growing akin to regular insurance, and I think during this period of, very high inflation around the GIC, it makes sense to take money out of OPEB now because you're experiencing a, what was it, 10%, 12?
Well, ours was 8.2.
8.2, approximately.
8.2. So, that's probably how much was that? $1.2 million, $1.3 million?
It's going to be another 8% the following year because the GIC caught a lot of flack for the 12 or 13% that they were talking about. So I expect another 8% increase in '28.
Yeah, so I mean, I think for mentally, my thing is we're taking out 1.5 million and the GIC is probably 5% over where inflation is. It's probably 300 grand per percent by the way, that's the way you would explain to S&P. You give them like a formula they eat that up. So that would be it, is if we're going to get 8% next year, we're probably pulling more money out of OPEB. If it's 3% next year magically, then yeah, we shouldn't take a dime out of OPEB.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's 3%
you think of the
magically
OPEB
next
as
year,
being a
that would be
reserve account.
That's what's happening with healthcare costs, yes.
Counselor Constance?
Two quick things. One, so you said that you're recommending $300,000 from the school budget. So mechanically, what happens next with that?
So
Because this is my first time through, so I'm just
Sure.
trying to understand.
we've made a recommendation, as we have explained, the budget, the appropriations book, I think it's called, at town meeting, will show the appropriation that the school committee is looking for, and it'll show a different appropriation that the finance committee is recommending. And then that would be debated on town floor and voted on appropriately by the body.
So school committee, I'm sorry to interrupt. So school committee's not going to do this exercise that town just did? That's
They
gonna
don't
be,
have to.
They don't have to, but, okay, all right.
They do have a meeting on Wednesday, and they could have the opportunity to do
That was
it.
my question.
This happened a
mechanically.
couple of years ago at town meeting, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember. So they make it work and they don't do what we do. But they could if they're meeting on Wednesday. Wednesday? Not tomorrow?
They're meeting, I think they meet on Wednesday, the day after the election, but.
Oh, got it.
The point's got to be made that it's going to be worse yet next year if they don't. I mean, we're heading down a path here that we just don't want to. And by the way, I want to compliment the Finance Committee, both of you, because this is the way it should work. And working with the town administrator to make cuts like this and come up with a way of making it work. And I hope the school committee would do the same thing.
Counselor Constance.
I had a different question now for you guys, maybe directed to Dee. With some of the staff moves that you're talking about here for change, can you just educate us on, there's a new title for some people, assistant town administrator. Can you explain whether that's a new position, newly funded, just a title, saving money? I think there's some confusion in the community about that.
So it's a great question. So on the finance side, the finance department side, there are no changes. So there already was an assistant town administrator for finance. That was Kevin Gill. And then they hired Liz last January as town accountant. That title's not changing. I'm just saying it's for finance operations on that side. So again, it was assistant town administrator, finance director, I think was Kevin's title. I'm just changing it for finance operations. So on that side, there's absolutely no changes. On the HR side, I am making that position an assistant town administrator for human resources and constituent services. But there is no change in what compensation that position will be offered. So I'm not increasing it and I'm not creating a new position. I'm just retitling an existing position under the same existing compensation schedule.
Thank you.
And I just want to reiterate that position has been vacant for a few months now. Correct. And Dee has been doing both positions. So we hired Dee to be our town administrator, and for the last couple of months, she has also been the head of HR, which she's doing two full-time jobs. And just to reiterate that for people of the public, that we have a town administrator that's doing multiple jobs, Liz has also been doing multiple jobs as she's been as Kevin retired and doing multiple jobs. So we thank you for that, but also thank you for explaining that. Councillor Fox.
So since the next year and the year after that don't look so good, the cuts we're making tonight, those are probably not coming back. most likely they're gone. Like whatever we're cutting tonight, we're not going to forward the next year because there'll be the new thing that comes up for the next year, and then so on and so on. Is that essentially how this normally works? If it goes away once, probably doesn't return, or do we try to bring things back up again and shuffle?
I mean, I think each year we revote on a budget.
Yeah.
So each year, I mean, some of these are postponements, so the jobs aren't going away.
I don't mean
They're
the
just
jobs, I mean the
postponed.
other thing. Like, so let's go with the parking lot, for example. If we don't do the parking lot, kick the can a few years down the road and do the parking lot then. Is that typically how this works, or?
I think every year department heads start meeting with Dee and Liz about their priorities, and they'll decide if it's a priority for next year, and then the council and then town meeting votes on it, right? So somebody could come to town meeting and be like, that's a priority, and we take a vote on it. It's a, open town meeting, everyone, one vote, every one person. I do think, Dee, to talk about what you're expecting, because this is so late that we're doing this. I mean, our town meeting is a week from today. We have to go to the printers. We don't usually do this the week before. So if you want to talk a little bit about your expectations with your department heads going forward, and when you are going to start those conversations, I think that would be helpful too.
Yeah,
I don't think they're gone forever, but I think...
I wouldn't say forever, but it just feels like if we can't afford it this year and something else comes up next year, we're spending $745,000 on vehicles, the capital budget this year. If we don't replace the vehicle this year, next year, the vehicles don't get, they don't get cheaper, but they don't gain better condition either. So it's...
So just to review the timeline for everyone, so I was hired October 6th. I had a town meeting a month later, my first ever.
And you did terrific.
Thank you. We lost the human resources director basically in December, and then Kevin went on a leave and retired. So that's kind of the timeline. So this budget process, I did not get the opportunity to vet budgets that I would, the mechanisms that I would use in prior jobs. So in prior North Andover, I oversaw 5 departments, not 23, but 5. And so every year we went through those budgets, every single line, justifying every single position and every single cost factor. I didn't have the opportunity to do that deep of a dive this year because I was new, getting to know the department heads and getting to know their needs. But for me, I'm used to the budget process. As soon as we close the books, we are back in budget mode. So we're in budget mode 10 out of the 12 months of the year. So we're going to be starting over the summer working with department heads on the town side to go through what a GFOA budget looks like. It's extensive. We're talking hundreds of pages long in some circumstances. Our appropriations book is not extensive, right? The way it currently is. So we're going to have to work with our department heads extra early next year because we're going to be asking them to do things they've never been asked to do before. Create goals, talk about what their accomplishments were for the prior year, look at we're going to have actual tables in it of who's in what department, who's in what position, what FTE is that. So it's a much, much, much more detailed and transparent way to look at budgeting. And so we're going to be starting right away going through that. And where you start with the revenue fixed cost committee so early, we're not having these discussions next year at the 11th hour. And if there's cuts that need to be made, I'll have the opportunity to be having those conversations with my department heads in December and not calling them at 10 o'clock after a finance committee meeting saying, guess what? That's not a good way to manage from my perspective. And so that's why next year we're going to start so much earlier. We will create a master budget calendar that will have all of these meetings ahead of time. These subcommittee meetings, which got incredibly confusing this year because nobody told me that I had subcommittee meetings for the finance committee that I had to attend. Surprise. So that whole process was extremely confusing this year. So we will make all of those dates and get those in the calendar. I'm going to recommend that we meet with Finance Committee before we meet with this body because they should be making the recommendation to you to be voted on, and it's backwards the way that it's done now. So those are the ideas that we've been tossing around, and then we will engage the Finance Committee leadership over the summer to talk about how we're going to approach it next year. But, in the school committee, obviously, the school committee is our third partner in this. So, I'm going to explain to them kind of the changes that we're going to make on the town side. They might not make any changes on the school side because they probably do the process more similar to what Liz and I are used to.
That's right.
I would just add one thing. Makes my heart sing having a master calendar and figuring all of that out. I think the other thing, you empower your department heads, their budgets. The priorities come from this body. And so I would encourage people on this body to meet with Liz and Dee. Not a big deal, but we all said that we really like Town Day. That's $11,000 that I want to find in the budget somewhere. But we all have priorities like that, and those should be reflected in the department heads and in their budgets. And so I would just factor in fellow counselors meeting with Dee and talking about your budget priorities too, because the department head's priorities should be coming from all these policies and documents that we create. And I think that line has always needs to be strengthened a little bit as well. Counselor Butler.
I think one of the things that I'm a little worried about in terms of, there's a couple things. One is I think the herd school, I worry that we're sort of winterizing it in prep to mothball it or sell it or whatnot. I think I'd probably lean towards, and you're and I don't know how much damage you're doing to the library, and that to me feels like we probably shouldn't, that is not an area where I would opt to save the $20,000. I also do, and I think Councillor Fox was going this way, I think if we don't do the parking lot now, we're not doing it. So I'm very concerned that I would be inclined, and I had said it before, I was inclined to budget the 350. And the flip side of that is how much, I feel like our bank interest income is certainly coming in higher for this fiscal year than it was budgeted. So that money is going to be a return presumably to the overall budget, to the overall cash flow. So in terms of what we're dipping into in terms of our negative, yes, we're negative this year. We're going to have a positive carryover that you've probably accounted for in that budget, but I'm not sure that they can technically account for it on the town side yet. I worry that, and this does get to Dan and the budgeting process and the budgeting overall. Overall, we have almost always ended up revenue-wise ahead of our projections. So, and again, I'm very much in favor of delaying hiring people. I always think I would rather spend the money that you're not sure if you're going to hit that number on something tangible rather than hiring someone who you may have to let go, 12 months later if you run out of the budget. So I think I hear you around those things. I would probably vote against both the herd school reduction and the parking lot reduction for the, from the town side of things. I think we should probably reduce less rather than cutting more right now.
Councillor Carney?
These are the difficult decisions. You have to start cutting back in places. Dee has always has professed the belief that she doesn't believe in layoffs, and I appreciate that.
I don't want to do it. I don't.
But we don't want to be facing that in the future either. And I think that we have to stick together in making cuts. And I know there's going to be pushback, okay? And that people are not going to like to hear what they're going to hear, but I think we have to stick together. And I appreciate the fact that Dee and Liz are working together so closely, and we got a team going here. Let's stick by our team and vote to go forward with it. These are the tough decisions. I'm sorry. They get paid to do this.
Do we? Well, I have two items.
And I think we should follow their lead.
Do we think next year won't be so bad with snow and ice? Could we cut that number a little bit? Like if we all just kind of, we can?
You can't.
You can't.
You can't legally reduce that budget.
Really?
That's why we've always
That's why you
underfunded
keep
it,
it,
is
yeah.
because otherwise we'd have to maintain that same budget every year under
Mm-hmm.
state law.
So if we were to go up to $1 million, we would have to budget $1 million going forward. So that's why snow
Can't
and
be
ice, you
reduced,
keep
yeah.
it, you try to keep it at a reasonable $850.
Oh, okay.
But I do like the thought that it will snow less and we'll spend less.
I think we all have to wish for that. Like at the start of each meeting, you should just be like, we're wishing for less snow and ice. And then just to go on Councilor Carney's, just asked, they're working as a team. I think the town councilors will all take a reduction in their salary to help even the budget. So Liz, could you just put those numbers in there?
I'll take a 50% cut.
Yeah. I'm going for a full 100, Dan. So
1971 to 1980, I got $300 a year.
Well, that's more than you get now.
you took a pay cut.
Since we make up the fire department overtime budget every year, we could just cut that down with this.
That's why the study that, thank you to the Finance Committee, had funded the study for the fire department. So that's going to be a good exercise for us to do, to try to figure that out.
It's been 15 years. That's never gonna.
All right, well, you buy me dinner if I fix it.
I will buy you more than I'll buy the whole team dinner if we get the fire
may
department
say, when-
overtime under the number.
When Doug was on the subcommittee, there was a lot of effort put in that area for the fire department, right, Doug?
Oh yeah, well, we did take it up. We brought it from just from realistic budgeting purposes. I think initially it was like $100,000 and it was $400,000 every year. It was like, what do you do? So this year, what was it, $750?
It was an overdraft, a reserve fund, not reserve fund, was 625 over.
Over the budgeted number.
Over the budgeted number.
Yeah.
Yeah. Studies
Okay.
warranted.
Any other comments or questions on the Councilor Fox?
Since Dee's handling HR right now. So in the tri-board, I remember hearing, and I looked it up now, so the town added 46 employees in the past 5 years. Any idea how many we lost in that period?
We haven't had a chance to do that analysis yet, but that's something that Liz and I will be looking at. Again,
Because
all
that
of,
seems like I work in a private company, we haven't hired that many people.
yeah, like what I described in the Finance Committee meeting was that when my experience, when there's a vacant position, whether it's a retirement, whether someone just resigns, whatever reason that the position becomes vacant, you look at that position, you look at that job description. Can we employ technology? Is there another way to do the position to keep the service delivery? And when I was in North Andover, we had 3 people plus the town clerk. 3 staff support and the town clerk. And just looking at an analysis when someone retired, the town clerk said, I really don't need this full-time position. So that will be done with every single position when it becomes vacant going forward. That's how I would do it, and that's how the new assistant town administrator for HR will do it, which we had interviews today. The candidates were outstanding, Liz. And our final interview is tomorrow.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
So the new numbers I just threw in my spreadsheet, and as everybody here knows, maybe not Dee is aware of this, but town meeting, I get up in front and talked about the position we're in, the past, the current, and the future. Right now, my presentation is going to say that we have a $2.112 million deficit for 27. About $2 million for 28 and $3.1 million for 29. So just so you guys are aware of the ugly news I'm going to present, I don't want to surprise you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Thank you, Dan.
Madam Chair, I want to remind you, this is going to be the longest meeting you've chaired.
I know.
Going out with a bang.
And I was complimented, at the beginning of the meeting, I complimented her.
I'm itching. We still have a lot to do. So I think we have to vote on each budget item.
I think I can do this let me do the operating reductions is one motion, and then the warrant articles is a second. That works for you?
That works for us. Yes.
All right, so Madam Chair.
But then, because Doug's already said that he's going to vote against them, so I think we should do them each individually, don't you think?
Well, we can split out operating and we can do the warrant articles, because I think that's
where you're to the warrant articles, the one that you.
Well, one is the next one. Yeah.
I mean, it's more just that's like, I think I'm pushing back on the herd, and I think you shouldn't cut. I think you haven't looked into like what not winterize, what degree of damage you're doing to the library in terms of their use of it as storage. I guess you're giving them enough advance notice, but it just feels like it shouldn't be.
I think it's the Friends of the Library.
It's the Friends.
Yeah,
The Friends.
And the
But
Friends,
we've been telling them
Friends are
for
aware.
years that the time in the herd was limited.
I know, but you're not doing anything with it. I mean, I guess.
Counselor
If I may,
Constance?
I can clarify some things.
Dan, go ahead.
So it has been the Friends. As many of you are aware, my wife was the president of Friends for many years, and she's been the runner of the book sale for many years. And I said, by the way, hon, you may be losing your heat. Well, I said, we expected that. We knew that was a possibility. We also expect at any moment that the building would go away. We know that. We're still trying to find a place. But the other thing that they mentioned that I had forgotten about is that both police and fire and DPW use that building from time to time. I think they do some classes.
Yes, they
at
do
the
some
Herd-
training.
At
Yep.
the herd. So if the police and fire are in there, to your point regarding the heat, I don't know if they want to have a class when it's 28 degrees in there. So yeah, you'll have to work with police and fire.
I mean, I just think it, like, in terms of the overall thing, I mean, I guess maybe it feels like it's not a feel good, but I'm just like, it doesn't make sense to me, like, that's where you're gonna come up with 20. Or not even that's where you're gonna come up with 20 grand, but that's like, the 20 grand in the grand scheme of things.
We have a building out back, at the town hall, that we have two people, maybe more than two, but two people who work for IT. And
There's four in that.
Okay, but there's empty space in there. Now, it's not as big as that, but you can't be supplying that amount of free space to people for that purpose. And we could offer the first floor, I think, over there is free.
I don't know about when I toured it,
Yeah.
there was stuff in all the rooms, but there might be a basement that I don't know about.
Yeah, so that, I mean, again, John, I just think like you've got enough if you've got fire and police, and you're not getting rid of it because you've got this huge overflow lot there. We're not going to sell it in the next year. I don't know why. Again, it seems like it seems silly to have done the 20 grand there. I would push back on it, and I would ask you to restore it, is frankly what I would say.
So then we'll need to vote on each one individually.
Okay, and then Counselor Fox?
I was going to say, I love the library and the book sale and all that. They use it for storage. They're not going in there all winter long. The book sale is typically in June. Even if it was winterized, they could still use it to do a book collection in November and bring things in and then have their book sale in June. Not that I think that's the best use of the herd, but they're not going to be doing a book sale every month throughout the winter. It's only going to be in the warmer months. It might be a little chilly if you go in there for the book sale to drop things off, but I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. I think they'll be happy to still have the space, considering Steve told them many times this could be the end of you using the building. They used to store stuff in people's houses. They can't do that anymore. They cannot afford storage units. I've gone over that with them because they asked where we put the parade stuff. And I said we pay for storage for 1 day a year, and they cannot afford that. So they'll be happy with the free space, even if it's a little cold.
I fear that this is, not heating it, is putting it on the, pushing it further towards, pushing it out the door. And I don't want that.
I don't want that either, and I don't think
so
that's what this will do.
I think that is the direction that this is heading, and that's why opposed to it. So like, I'm like, you can take a pick. We can vote on them all individually.
I think we should vote on them individually. I think this is just like
Or you can put the 20 grand back in.
Do you want to make a motion for that?
I make a motion that we restore the $20,000 to the Hurd School.
So as a point of order, we haven't cut it yet. So I think.
Oh, there you go.
All right, I'm going to go through and make the motions individually then. Move to reduce the accounting budget in the amount of $75,000 for fiscal year 2027.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. 7-0. Thank you.
Move to reduce the assessor's budget by $15,000 for fiscal year 2027.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. 7-0.
Move to reduce the Wakefield Police Department budget by $45,000 for fiscal year 2027.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. 7-0. Thank you.
Move to reduce the animal control budget by $5,000 for fiscal year 2027.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. 7-0.
Sorry, let me get to my next one. Move to reduce the Veterans Department budget by $20,000 for fiscal year 2027.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. 7-0.
Move to reduce the Department of Public Works budget by $50,000 for fiscal year 2027.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion?
Remind me, what is that of?
So that is
That's
the
where you-
$20,000 for the Hurd School plus $30,000 for delaying of vacancy in the parks.
Parks and Forestry, correct.
So you would want
I would make a motion to reduce the budget by $30,000 just to account for the reduction in, or the delay in hiring.
So just break them into two pieces, right? The DPW and, the 30 and the 20, right?
Nobody seconds
No.
his motion. It's done.
Yeah, it's more the, I think before, it's just, it's where it happens. It doesn't much matter. I'm saying that, like, I think we should reduce it to 20,000. If it doesn't get a second, it doesn't get a second. That's fine.
I'll second Councilor Butler's motion.
Great. Okay, so, you're making me pull out my Robert's rules. So,
So we'd vote on the amendment,
The
which is to
amendment
reduce
first.
the reduction from 50,000 to 30,000.
to 30,000.
There we go.
A motion made by Councillor Butler, seconded by Councillor Chrisley. Any further discussion on?
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Before he does it, his concerns, this is the end of the herd. Is that the feeling, not that we're voting on that tonight, is the general consensus if we go down this path to allay his fear now? Or is that the plan?
I think my concern would be, further possible damage to the.
That's my concern. Once you turn it off, what happens when you turn it back on again? What will it cost to fix any pipe issues when you turn it off?
Yeah.
I mean, we're all going to wish and hope for a good winter.
But I
so
think
we
we have
should
an El
be fine.
Nino coming, so you can hope all you want.
Councillor Chines.
Just, through you to the town administrator, I mean, I'm assuming that as part of coming up with this, the building department, DPW has,
Yes,
kind
Joe
of
Conway was
has
at,
validated this,
Joe Conway was at the meeting and he endorsed this recommendation. So if he felt that more damage was going to be done to the building, I doubt he would have made this recommendation.
I think if Joe Conway could implode the herd, he'd be happy with it, but.
Okay, so we have Councillor Butler's motion and it was seconded. All in favor of the motion? 2, all opposed? 5, motion
Does not
pass, fails. And now we go back to the original motion for Department of Public Works with a cut of 50,000 total. All in favor? Say aye. 7-0. Thank you.
Great. And move to reduce the group health insurance.
Can we, the veterans?
I did that.
You did? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm kind of following the order and.
I have a different, sorry.
No,
My
I know.
spreadsheet's a little different.
Move to reduce the group health insurance budget by a total of $2,052,500.
No.
No.
No, so what has to happen is the 1.5 is just an available funding source, so you can't reduce the budget by that 1.5 that we're offsetting. Yes, the tax levy piece will be reduced by that amount, but we need the whole budget to be voted.
Okay, so we're reducing the budget then by the $552,500.
Yes.
And then do we need to take a separate vote on the allocation of $1.5 million from the OPEB trust? How do we approve that coming out of the OPEB trust for actual use?
It's going to be listed in the motion as a funding source to offset the group insurance budget.
At town meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we need to approve that motion to be presented at town meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Do we have the language of that motion?
I can do it. Todd Mullet is
Is that when
probably
we
like.
do all the budgets?
What's that?
Don't we do that one sort of last when we do all the roll-up of the budgets? Because it's the funding source for...
But when we've approved the budgets, that's always been with X dollars coming from tax levy and so and so.
Oh, you can do that if you'd like.
Yeah.
You can do it that way. So the tax levy piece is $12,672,864.
$12,672,874.
864.
864 from tax levy.
And 1.5 million from OPEB trust funds for a total budget of $14,172,864.
14. Sorry, repeat that again.
14,172,864.
All right. In that case, Madam Chair, move to reduce the group health insurance budget by $552,500 for fiscal year 2027 for a total budget of $14,172,864, with $12,672,864 coming from the tax levy and $1,500,000 coming from the OPEB trust fund.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. 7-0. Thank you.
All right, I have warrant articles too.
Yes.
Move to reduce the is it Richardson Street or Richardson Ave?
Ooh.
Richardson.
Hey, you know what? We have the warrant.
Richardson Street.
I was going to say, let me
go
pull
to
up
the
the
warrant.
warrant.
Richardson Street. Richardson Ave is next to
But isn't it, it's a few things. It's not, or was it listed?
It was
think
the
it was
parking lot.
Yeah, so let me get the
Parking lot.
warrant and I
Richardson
can.
Street, we're cutting the other ones.
Richardson Ave goes on.
But that- oh, but
What's
that
the
you
one to
wanna-
back up of Sunny Nodos? Is that the Richardson Street? Or the Richardson Street is the Main Street piece, right? At Main and Richardson versus...
Richardson Street to Water Street.
Oh, yeah, well, that's where the rail trail runs.
Yeah. That's the parking lot.
lot is... Oh, at Richardson and Water?
Yeah.
That's the one we're talking about, the one behind Sunny Nodos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going to pull up
And
the
like
warrant and just
omelet
refer to the
headquarters.
article.
Yep.
Yeah,
warrant
yeah,
number.
omelet headquarters, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just parking lots throughout the town, so it's generic. Do you want it?
I was going to say Jim is. Thank you, Jim. All right. I will give this back to you. Move to reduce the parking lot construction warrant article from $350,000 to $100,000.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, 6-1. Thank you.
All right. Move to reduce the move to eliminate the retaining wall repair warrant article for fiscal year 2027.
Motion made.
Second.
Seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. 7-0. Thank you.
And then finally, move to eliminate, or I should say, move to rescind approval of the building space and capital needs assessment warrant article in the amount of $150,000.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? 6-1. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Okay. Was that everything?
I believe so.
Thank
My
you.
scribbled notes,
Thank
yes.
you, Dan and
Good luck.
Jim. We'll see you.
Following those up.
Just to remind everyone, town meeting starts on Monday, May 4th at 7 p.m. at the Galvin Middle School, and you can come and hear about all of these budget items that we just discussed and have been discussing since January. Okay, moving on to item G, Town Council Policies and Regulations. So this is, we are looking at the bench and structure policy. A couple of years ago, we decided we were going to look at all of our policies regularly just to approve them, see if anyone wants any changes. I can't remember, do we vote today or do we give it a couple of weeks and if anyone wants to change anything? I'm forgetting, Sherry.
Yeah, normally you just do it tonight. You don't wait. You just kind of review. And if you don't want to make any changes, you take no action.
Okay. Anyone have any changes they want to make? Councilor Constance.
So there was a handful of typos, so we're not going to worry about that. But my question was, what about the other areas of town? Like one thing that immediately brought to the top of my mind reading this for the first time was the new benches, like in front of the library, for example, and along Main Street. Those aren't addressed here. And then that was, I guess, just an open question, like, what about the rest of the town that is not adjacent to the areas that we discussed here? And then the public art seems like it's for the whole town, not just, so that's section 5, not just, the adjacent Lake Quannapowitt vets and the playground. So that it was a little bit of a gap in this policy. So I feel like either we just clarify that in this policy.
I make a motion to table it.
And then I can circulate something, yeah.
You've got some good comments you want to make.
Yeah,
We'll
that's
table
fine.
it till next meeting.
Yeah, we were seconded. Great. We will table it and.
Can I just make a quick comment? I absolutely agree, and I think there's a lot about this policy that has worked really, really well, and I think the process is great, but I do think we should look to see how it's applying more broadly to public spaces. Mm-hmm. I also know, and I don't know if we'd want to see this in kind of the new format that Town Administrator Casey is using before we bring it back for consideration.
Mm-hmm. Great. Good.
Okay. So do we have to vote if we table it or no? We'll just bring it back. All in favor of tabling it, say aye. Great, awesome. 7-0.
When in doubt, vote.
Great, yes. Tom would be proud of us. Moving on to item H1, a license.
Madam Chair, move to approve a Class 2 license for New England Detroit Diesel Allison Inc., DBA Vintage Automotive.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Sherry, they got all their paperwork in?
Yes, they're all set.
Awesome. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye. 7-0 unanimous. Thank you.
And move to approve a second-hand license for Indy Clover at 390 Main Street.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? Sherry, they got in all their paperwork?
Yeah, they are all set as well.
I know it's in our package. It's just nice to clarify.
Yeah, sure.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. 7-0 unanimous. Thank you. Item I1.
Move to approve the Town Council meeting minutes for April 13, 2026.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All
Abstaining.
abstaining. I'm like, what's the word?
Abstaining.
Yes,
I was on a work
abstaining.
trip. I missed it.
I haven't used that in a while. 6-0 to 1 for that one. And then item 2.
Move to approve the tri-board meeting minutes for April 15, 2026.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. All in favor,
I have a
say
question on this one.
yes. Discussion.
Discussion, thank you. I attended about the first hour and 15 minutes before I had to come here for the debate. Do I approve minutes or abstain because I didn't attend the entire meeting? I got to about 7:15 before I had to walk in here.
It's up to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's really that technical.
Okay, I didn't know if it mattered, that's all.
I mean, I would-
I'd rather ask now than have
I
someone.
would just recommend abstaining, because then
Abstaining.
someone
Yep,
can't
yep.
say he agreed to something that he didn't see.
Perfect, that's what I want to check.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed,
abstaining.
and then abstaining.
Abstaining.
You were abstaining as well.
For the same reason.
So 5-2, Sherry, on that. Great. Moving on to item 6, announcements. Counselor Chines.
I'm going to embarrass you a little bit.
Counselor Kern is looking at the clock.
I'm going to do it briefly, though, but
You don't do anything briefly, John.
I take a little offense to that.
You're on fire today.
So obviously we have a town election tomorrow, and whatever happens, we know that one of the changes will be that Chair Butt will not be with us as a town council member starting next week. And I think, as many folks in the town know, Maureen and I have known each other for many, many, many years, going back to our freshman year at Tufts University. And in many ways, for me, part of the reason that I'm on the council is because Maureen was someone who said to me, you should really think about running. I think you'd be good at this. And while there have been times where I have cursed you to no end for telling me that, the benefit of that is that I've had the opportunity to serve the community, and that I've also had the opportunity to serve with you. And I just want to say, I've been on this council for 7 years. All of those meetings have been meetings that you've been in. You've been an amazing example of just how to be better at this job, how to be better in terms of engaging with each other as a group, how to really be better in terms of listening to and respecting people in the community, and how as a town council, how as a town we can be better at serving the people that live here, regardless of where they come from, regardless of their circumstances, recognizing that everyone who lives in Wakefield deserves to have a government that they can be proud of, and to be served by the community in the way that they need. And so I just wanted to say thank you for everything that you've done. I mean, as, again, a colleague for the last 7 years, as a friend, but I think most importantly, as your constituent for the last 9 years, I'm so grateful for what you've done. And it's personally going to be hard for me to come back to our next meeting without having you sitting next to me. So thank you.
Thank you. Town Administrator Casey.
So we have flowers for you from our office, and I have to say, it's been a privilege and a pleasure having you as my first chair, as the town administrator. You have been so supportive of me and checking in on me, and our weekly check-ins, I think, are great. You're an inspiration to women and strong women, and I appreciate the relationship that we've made, and I hope that we're able to keep in touch. But thank you for your 9 years of service without missing a meeting.
Yes.
I have never, I think, worked with a board member or a council member that has never missed a meeting. So that is really impressive. So congratulations on your retirement. I hope you don't go far. There's lots of committees I want to see you serve on, but it's been a real pleasure and privilege to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
So I do want to say 9 years, Dee just said this, and I kind of did the math, but guesstimating over 215 town council meetings, so over thousands of votes, and perfect attendance. So if there is anything that I am really proud of is that I never missed a meeting, partly helped because of pandemic when we could participate via Zoom. But 9 budgets, 18 town council meetings, 1 global pandemic, and at the end of it all, we'll get a new high school, which is the crowning achievement. So I'm really excited. It's been a great 9 years. I'm really proud of the work that we've done. Absolutely loved working with all my colleagues. Remind everyone that there is an election tomorrow. Polls are open from 7 to 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. voting at the Galvin Middle School, which we centralized my second year in the council, another success. And then a reminder that we have town meeting on Monday, May 4th. So I will see everyone at town meeting, just from the other side of the podium.
Do we still get to sign you up to be a teller?
No, I'm going to sit there and watch you all debate the heating of the herd school. Any other announcements?
I forgot I could amend.
Any other announcements?
I actually do have a quick one. The Human Rights Commission is having an Asian American Food Truck and Culture Festival on Sunday, the 17th of May, over at the Galvin from, I think, 1 to 4. They're having a ton of food trucks this year, a lot of family activities. It's going to be great, great, great. So everybody come out on Sunday afternoon.
Say, Councillor Fox?
So in the event I don't win tomorrow, because who really knows, I'd like to thank all of you. It's been great to be here. It's very easy to watch all these meetings take place on television. It's different to actually sit on this side of the table. So thank you all for what you've all done for many years. Maybe I'll be back in a week, maybe I won't, who knows, but I'll still be watching on TV, so stay in touch.
Brian, good luck, and it's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Lou Gehrig of, counselors.
I mean,
in
people
terms of
have
not
done it
missing-
longer. Oh.
Not missing a game.
I know.
I can't say that now.
I think I missed my third meeting. So.
I had a streak going for 6.5 years, but.
Okay, any matters not anticipated for the agenda? Okay, then do I have a final motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
So moved, seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye, meeting adjourned. The next regular town council meeting will be Monday, May 18, 2026.
If you want to
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
I am upset about that.